Chambers of the Occult may contain content that might not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey, I have a doctor's note. I'm going to be out for the next, 2 months. I've been diagnosed with enwitchment.
Enwitchment. Yeah, sorry, a witch got to me the other day.
Here to introduce yourself?
I don't know. You should introduce me. Who am I?
Okay, Hey everyone.
Welcome.
I am welcome. Yeah, go ahead, Kai.
Welcome to Chambers of the Occult. Wow, episode 15 now.
Yeah.
As always, I'm Kai.
I'm Jay.
I'm Alexis.
And I'm the mystery guest.
We're here with our special guest today, the beloved Jessie.
Benefil.
PhD. PhD.
But you can edit that part out if you want. But you can
Multiple
also
PhDs,
We
actually.
can leave her in.
have a degree.
But yeah, we have a special episode today with a guest. Hope you like it. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
Yeah, episode 15. That means I have to catch up on some others. But I'm sure
No,
I'll be
you're fine.
No spoilers.
Yeah. What are we going to spoil?
I'm going to be honest. I don't even remember like half of the cases that I cover. So.
Good. You can do them again.
I can, yeah. Like a
More
couple years
in-depth
down
this
the road.
time.
Yeah.
Maybe episodes just 3 tales.
We
just keep retelling
redo
them.
all our things. We need to start, or like for when we do our like TikToks, like recapping the stories or like summarizing them. I guess it'll
Yes.
be good to know. But
Previously on Chambers of the Occult.
exactly. Oh, we could have
Yeah.
Jessie narrate them.
We used to do that on D&D with my friends. They'd always have me use my previously on D&D.
And then
Nice.
Then just make up some story.
That's good.
Thank you.
They take advantage of you. Well, they have you.
You should. Very take advantage of Bob. You can advantage. You should. Period.
Alexis, how do you feel about Jessie being on our podcast today?
I feel gay.
Oh.
Ew. I'm gay.
That's it?
He
Nothing?
contaminated me.
This
Gay
is
meaning like
veganism.
happy.
One of those.
Because my
Oh, okay.
husband is on here.
Oh.
That's
Right,
right. I'm
Jesse?
not married. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget
Oh,
the
wow.
context of our
Congrats.
marriage, but it happened, so it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Most
I don't even
most
know
gay
when
white
it
guys end up
happened.
marrying a woman. Just
I think
usually
Yeah.
they're political.
it's what, your second husband, and you have like what, 2 wives?
No.
Move to Utah.
Milo's my husband. Jesse's my second husband. I have one wife, and that is Evelyn.
Okay, got it.
Okay, well, we've
Yeah.
had both of your husbands on the podcast now. Now we need to have
That's
your wife.
true. We need your wife
Um,
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deal.
I would love to have my wife on here.
A sister wife.
I haven't seen her in so
True
long.
though.
Yes.
When you like look at a family tree, that's what she would be.
I'm descended from a second wife.
Oh my God, are you?
I am, actually. Illegally. My great something or other grandfather was a Mormon, but like practicing outside the laws Mormon. And
Oh, I
wrote,
see.
he wrote a bunch of letters in prison for polygamy. And I'm not descended
Oh.
from the first one.
He
I think
he
he
seems
also,
like an interesting character.
didn't get her out. He got like his first wife out and not the second wife.
Okay. I guess I respect it. You know,
He's a player.
I was just gonna say favoritism.
yeah.
or
well,
that too. Yeah.
I guess
That
he
is
was
fine.
right, because I mean, like, look what that bloodline led to. Me.
And we all love you, Jessie. So
we
you know what?
Yeah,
no.
you do. I still
listeners, you
heavily add
can't.
the diversity to this. Even though
Our
I'm the
listeners can't see the cameras on right now, but we can look at Jessie's beautiful face right now.
It is pretty. Do you want to describe me? What am I wearing? when I'm
Oh, Jesse. On the podcast.
Cover
I
yourself
know
up.
I'm wearing. What are you wearing? A t-shirt, shorts, boxers longer than usual.
Oh my, so scandalous.
Shoes.
You gotta have the voice from like that receptionist when you like describe what you're wearing.
Don't have a receptionist voice. I have every other voice. I can sound like an old, scary woman talking sexy to you.
That would be kind of fun, actually.
Bring Charlotte
Some people
on.
are into that.
But I digress.
Yes.
That big word.
We ready?
Y'all are here for stories, and I'm starting us off this week.
Well, I need to know, how often are we allowed to like interrupt you?
Always.
The
Always.
whole time?
Yeah,
All the
One
time.
nonstop
we're here for the
interrupt?
banter.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're
Great.
just having a conversation, a casual conversation. If I say something that you want to go off on a tangent, you're more than welcome.
Perfect.
We'll eventually get back to the story.
Will we?
Somehow. We always find
Yeah.
a way.
Yeah.
We can talk.
So-
Our jobs rely on it.
Yeah, basically.
True.
So I have a story for y'all about,
Earl
Perfect.
Dish.
well, I have a question for y'all to get started with.
Okay.
How was your prom?
I didn't have one.
Oh,
I was a COVID graduate, so.
there. And Jesse?
I went to prom in a pink truck limo with a Playboy design on the inside because that was the only limo they had left. I
That's
went
kind of cool.
to one of them. I went to a guy with the other one of them. And I went to a gay prom too. So I've had a lot of proms in my experience.
Got it.
Yeah.
And Alexis?
I didn't have a prom.
Also COVID baby?
No,
COVID baby.
Sorry.
It's like a cocaine baby. It's just COVID instead. Okay.
Oh, I just realized there's going to be like a big boom of people born from the COVID era, aren't there?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do when you're
Yeah,
stuck
it's
inside?
crazy.
It's going to be the
And
COVID
sleep with
boom.
whatever moves.
The baby boom. Yeah. Kai, what did you end up saying? Like COVID graduate? Is that what you said?
Yeah, COVID graduate. Yeah.
Okay. Was that you too, Alexis? That's what I meant to ask.
Yeah.
No, I went to a continuation school, and my continuation school didn't have any school activities, no football games or anything like that. So,
Got it.
The football, I can
Yeah.
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 And then I didn't go junior or senior year because I was like, I don't have people to go with, and I don't think I'm missing out. Still don't regret not going.
Valid.
I did go my sophomore year because there was a junior that was like, hey, would you care to go with me? It's like, sure.
So
And I
you
got a
did go to
free
prom,
suit
you
out
liar.
of it.
A what?
Huh? I got a free
did you
suit
get?
out of it.
Oh.
Oh, you got a free suit?
Well, because
Wait, you, like,
I didn't
bought
have
the
a
suit?
suit. No. Like, her dad had like an extra old one that he didn't fit him anymore. So
Nice. So you just
I
You
got
got to
it.
keep it afterwards
dad's
too?
old suit. Huh?
Did you get it? So you like got to keep it afterwards, or did you have to give
Yeah.
it back to daddy?
No, like he didn't want it back. It wasn't gonna fit him anyway.
Got it.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was just
that's
like,
all right. Like I said, I went
you
to
can
3
keep it.
proms technically, one for each of you. You guys can have them.
fair.
Oh, thank
You made up
you.
for the prompts we didn't
I
have.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't remember the theme for. What was the theme for your prom?
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't even know if there really was much of a theme. I
Okay.
think it was just dance. Although I got to decide where one of them was because I was in
Okay.
like the student
Ours
leadership.
was something cheesy. I think it was like Under the Sea or something like that, which everyone does. So,
I mean,
yeah.
this is
The
a
reason
theme,
I was
man.
asking you about prom is because my story, a big chunk of my story takes place in prom.
So we hope I don't have proms you never had, except for me
Huh?
who had 3.
Ah, yeah. No, so for this story, we're going to New Jersey.
You? I mean, sorry if there's New Jersey
No, you're good.
listeners on here. Yeah, I love there. Never been. I don't know.
And this is the story of Melissa Drexler, also known as Prom Mom.
That sounds familiar, but I don't know if I know anything about it.
Does it ring a bell for Jesse or Alexis?
No, it
Okay.
doesn't. It's a catchy name, though.
Yeah. And
It
Alexis?
is a catchy name.
Okay. But you haven't heard of
Jesse. It? No.
Okay, so this took place in 1997, and Melissa is an 18-year-old high school senior in Aberdeen Township, New Jersey. And I'm going to give you a little bit of her background so you know what I wouldn't say dealing with, but who we're talking about.
Okay.
She was a single daughter from a Catholic family. She loved to draw, and she was interested in fashion design. So in her sophomore year, she met her boyfriend, John Lewis, who was 2 years older. So he was like a senior and she was a sophomore. No, he was, is that what it was? Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So it wasn't love at first sight, but they did like each other. They started talking and then they started dating. And then soon the two of them, like high schoolers, just started to have sex.
With each other.
Disgusting.
Yeah. Yes, let's clarify that. With each other.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you, Jesse.
But the
No
relationship
problem.
was...
I'm here for context.
Thank you. Their relationship was always a little bit rocky, so they would break up quite often, and within a day or two, they would make up again. So according to Melissa, she was a friend of John. So according to friends, I don't know what I'm saying. Melissa and John did like each other, but they never really talked about marriage. And they were more focused on their life after high school. So they would talk about attending university together and like getting jobs and things like that. And it would be in early 1997 where Melissa and John would start talking about attending prom. Now, the theme for prom was not under the sea. It was a night to remember.
Okay, so that's like the second most common one.
I think.
Yeah.
There are plenty of people remembering their nights to remember.
Yeah.
Maybe, unless alcohol in the punch.
Fair. But this really would be a night for them to remember. So one day, Melissa just realized that she was late with her period. And so she decided to tell John. And then she reassured him that it was not a big deal, that she was probably just late or something like that. So Melissa and her best friend, Rebecca, go on and they try prom dresses. And Melissa doesn't notice anything off. Rebecca doesn't notice anything off. So Melissa starts to wear some baggy clothing around people, and no one seems to notice. Not her friends, not her parents, not her boyfriend. But of course, Melissa was pregnant.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to fast forward to prom night, which was Friday,
9 months
June.
later.
Something like that, if not more. A little bit more than that. So John picks up Melissa. She's wearing a sleeveless black dress with a V-neck and a white corsage. Her hair is done in an updo. And there's nothing unusual about her. So John and Melissa arrive at the prom. And it takes place in a banquet hall. And then she heads straight to the restroom. She tells some of her friends, she's like, hey, I have like a heavy flow period. Like I have some bad cramps. It might be a few minutes. I'm going to go to the restroom. Mm-hmm. So John and the friends wait for her. It's no big deal. And this is where I'm going to give a warning. I mean, listeners already know, but this is where it can get a little gruesome. And if you don't want to hear about infants, you might want to skip this story. Or
Okay.
Yeah.
Ew, infants. I'm leaving.
Definitely don't want to hear about those.
Bye. So Melissa is in the restroom at the banquet hall during prom. Other girls enter and leave the restroom. And then some of them start to say that they heard some strange noises. And one of the students thought that the noises were of another couple having sex in the restroom. But nothing really came of it. People were just hearing noises going in and out of the bathroom.
like what I'm assuming is happening in there should not be the sounds of sex. I'm just gonna put that out there if what my guess is correct.
Yeah, you're on the right track. So other young girls started to report that they were. Yes, exactly. Other young girls reported seeing blood from under the stall.
Definitely wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. So after nearly half an hour, Melissa gave birth to a baby boy that weighed about 6 pounds.
Wow.
I don't know if that's like a normal size for a baby.
Isn't that like heavy for a baby? Or...
And also, when you hear about people giving birth, you usually hear that it takes them a couple hours, if not quite a few hours.
Yeah.
And for Melissa, it was just like half an hour in there. Baby popped out.
It ranges between 5 pounds and 8 pounds. So.
Okay.
Regular
yeah.
Baby.
So, while this is happening, everyone else is on the dance floor. Everyone's oblivious to this happening. And then Alexis, you might be able to speak on this a bit more because men's bathrooms don't have this, but Melissa decided to cut the umbilical cord with a sharp edge of the metal trash container in the stall.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So once again, here's that warning once again. If you would rather avoid anything related to infants, you might want to skip this. And the next thing that Melissa did was apply pressure to the neck of her newborn son.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Yep. And eventually she starts to look for something to hide the body of her son. And then she starts to clean up the mess and she finds a trash bag. Now, I read a lot of different things, but a lot of the things said that Melissa stuffed her newborn in a trash bag, in 2 trash bags, and then threw him into a trash can, walked back out of the restroom into the prom with her friends and her boyfriend. She went up to the DJ booth and she requested a song, The Unforgiven by Metallica.
Okay.
So she just walked out. Nothing happened.
Man, just hold on, guys. Let me give birth real fast.
Yeah. Just give me half an hour, and then we can enjoy the rest of the night.
Yeah.
So her friends were just thinking that she wasn't feeling well. That's why she was in there for half an hour. And then other students started to report that when they were talked to, they report that Melissa seemed to just enjoy her time at the prom. They didn't really notice anything odd about her. Meanwhile, she was dancing and just enjoying the prom. Students alerted the prom supervisors about blood in a stall in the girls' bathroom.
Fuck.
So that's when a janitor
had the body went up the blood, huh?
Well, I mean, they see the blood. The body's in a bag.
I know. I just mean if she's gonna take the time to kill her baby and get rid of it, she can at least clean up the blood a little bit.
I also imagine what things do you have to clean up such a mess in the bathroom?
Tampons? They're meant for absorbing blood, aren't they?
Yeah, but are they going to absorb things if it's on the wall? Or is it just going to smear it more?
I mean, pat it down with some water. The point is, people are going to ask questions if you're in this room full of blood smears all over the place. You should find a way to get rid of it.
So once again, it was just one specific stall that was covered in blood. So the janitor goes in to clean it, and the janitor then notices that the trash bag feels too heavy to only contain paper towels. So she calls in another janitor, and between the both of them, they check the contents, and of course they're shocked because inside of the trash bags, they find the tiny body of Melissa's newborn. Now, meanwhile, this is all happening in the restroom. Melissa's just in the banquet hall enjoying a salad like nothing has happened. And that's when a supervisor is informed. And then other girls also testify that was the stall that Melissa was in. So between asking around the chaperones and the kids they're like, yeah, who was in that stall? I was like, oh, Melissa was in there. She wasn't feeling well, type of thing. So during this whole time, the paramedics were also called. They were rushed, and they tried to save the baby by providing some CPR. The paramedics tried for almost 2 hours to revive Melissa's baby. And
Wow.
Melissa was taken to the hospital for treatment. And meanwhile, her boyfriend John was questioned about the pregnancy. They asked him, it's like, hey, John said that she was feeling sick and that she wasn't pregnant. And then they proceeded to tell him that Melissa was pregnant and she had a baby tonight in the bathroom. So he's shocked, taken back, because he's like, she didn't look pregnant. Is the baby okay, type of thing? And of course, they had to tell John that the baby was not okay. So the authorities called the parents, and once again, the parents were completely unaware that their daughter was pregnant.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like labor beforehand, or like just somehow was gifted the gift that all mothers probably wish they had, just 30 minutes of labor instead of hours and
yeah,
hours.
And the thing is, there's lots of people out there who don't show their pregnancy that well.
Mm-hmm.
But you really can't tell they're pregnant. And some people it's very obvious that they're pregnant. So the theories are like, are saying that Melissa did not show her pregnancy at all.
Just
Parents,
because that can take hours and pain.
Yeah.
And she's just like, plop.
Yeah. Just came right
I
out.
mean, that's why someone thought that someone was having sex in the bathroom, because someone was, I don't know, groaning.
Again, not what sex sounds like, I don't think.
Don't tell that to high schoolers. You might want to encourage them to figure it out.
Just painful screaming. Yes.
Yes. So Melissa's parents are asked to come to the hospital, and that's where they give them the rundown of what happened. They were unable to revive the baby, so they did an autopsy to determine whether the baby was stillborn or if he was alive and then killed by Melissa, because obviously people wanted to know if Melissa was a killer. And it's quite different if it was a stillborn compared to if he was alive and then killed by Melissa, because if the baby was born alive, he would have received a birth certificate, and then they would have issued a death certificate. If the baby was stillborn, they would have only issued a death certificate.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be on June 9th, 1997. This was 3 days after the incident after prom. Melissa Drexler was arrested, and she was charged with murder after an autopsy revealed that the baby was born alive and died of asphyxiation. Of course, like I said, everyone was shocked. The family decided to name the baby Christopher, and there was a private burial. So, because you can't really keep this hidden, especially because it happened at prom. When word got out, other students that were there, and students around the school, just spread the rumors that someone had a baby during prom, and that the baby was killed. So some people wore white ribbons in order to memorize the baby. So a 17-year-old named Valerie, she was a Lacey High School student. She discussed plans to distribute white ribbons at the high school during a assembly type of thing in memory of the infant who died at the school prom. It says, I have a little newspaper clipping that said, Valerie plans today to distribute white ribbons to her classmates in memory of Drexler's baby. Quote, we just want to show that we care about human life. I'm going to try to give them out to as many people as I can, she said. But where there's good people, there's always bad people.
Unfortunately.
So there was also the opposite reaction. The Asbury Park Press newspaper from New Jersey brought to light that several walls in the girls' and boys' bathrooms were defaced with graffiti linked to Drexler and her baby, more than like a dozen students. So people would write in the bathroom stalls, baby killer, bathroom walls.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. So complete opposite. Several of the, several of the boxes in the girls' bathroom to dispose of sanitary napkins, tampons, everything. There were also defaced with baby killer and things on them. And then one girl named Melanie, she was a 14-year-old freshman. She said that kids also smeared ketchup on garbage cans in school. And once again, this is because it was all reference to them finding the body in the trash can.
Aren't kids fun?
What was that?
Aren't high school kids fun?
Yeah, that's one way to put it. And then quickly headlines started to call Melissa, it gave her the nickname Prom Mom, which took over the headlines. And eventually some students started making bets to see if Melissa would show up for graduation or not.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's like tormenting this girl.
Should we do that? No, I'm just kidding.
No, what?
For who?
Well, not you, Jay, because you already know the safety of this, but we don't know whether or not she's going.
Oh, if she shows up to graduation. Got it.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to put money on it, but I bet she shows up.
Yeah, so some of the newspapers,
stories.
Reported more of the incident of this is what happened. Some of them were more of just going wild to get people to buy the newspapers. And some were just wanting to inform people that Melissa's deception of being pregnant is by no means unique. And then these are the numbers from back in the late 1990s, but it says that the U.S. Justice Department statistics show that between 300 to 400 dead newborns are discarded annually, whether stillborn, killed or dead from exposure. According to Dr. Phil J. Resnick, a leading expert in the murder of newborns.
Just gonna say Dr. Phil. I'm like, maybe we shouldn't use Dr.
No,
Phil
not
as
Phil.
the scientific authority.
No, Dr. Philip J. Resnick. He is a leading expert at the time on murder of newborns, and one of the things he said was, but nobody knows how many don't happen to be discovered because that's 300 to 400 being discovered, but that doesn't account for the ones not discovered.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say it was unclear yesterday whether Drexler had been in denial over the changes in her body, or if she had just hidden them so successfully that even her best friends in the bathroom minutes before she gave birth were unable to see her friend's circumstances.
I mean, as a high schooler, I feel like it's pretty easy to hide that just because, like, baggy clothes you can wear, nobody's going to bat an eye. And also, like, your high school friends, they're not going to pay attention to, like, if you're pregnant or not. Like, I don't think they really care.
I'll send it to you once we're kind of done with the story so I can look it up. But you can see a picture of her wearing her prom dress. And she physically does not look pregnant.
Okay.
So there's, like I said, some people that really show it, some people that don't.
Yeah, some people just don't.
Yeah, and she went with her friends to try on prom dresses. So they didn't even notice that anything was off with Melissa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Weird.
So I think that, like, if you wear baggy clothing, fine. Yeah, like, you can probably hide it. But as soon as you go
she was
to
in
try
a prom
on
dress.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially when you go to try on multiple. I assume that some will show it more than others.
I wonder if her friends were probably like, oh, like secretly they're like, oh, she's gaining some weight. But like they didn't tell that because they don't want to like say anything about it.
Could be.
But...
Yeah, could be. If they have that type of friendship of like, let's just not comment on her body type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another quote says that from Dr. Phil J. Resnick says that some women may be in a calculated way hide their pregnancy, anticipating that they will get rid of the baby. More often, they may deny the pregnancy, said Resnick. It's kind of like this problem will go away. I read that in situations like this, they could be in so much denial that they are hoping either for a miscarriage or to get rid of the baby when it's born, or like Melissa's case, kill the baby.
Yeah.
And I would say that it's kind of split between some people being in denial that they're pregnant. Some people are in denial that they want to be a mother.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. I feel like it happens so much more than like anybody realizes, of like a mom who either like, denies her pregnancy or whatever it may be, to just immediately then like either give up the child or, like, in a more sinister sense, kill their child and move on afterwards. I don't know. I don't know what the thinking is, but I don't know.
That in California, you can be both excused from school to get an abortion, and they can't tell your parents about it. It's just a fun thing I learned when I was in college. Not in college, in high school.
High school. That
sounds like I haven't gone an abortion, but I did a bunch of those when I was in the GSA, a bunch of different rights.
Okay, yeah.
Got it.
So
yeah. So another thing that's mentioned here, it's kind of talking about what they go through when they're like denying their pregnancy, because it says that experts say that it is common for teenagers to deny their pregnancy. In some cases, the denial stretches into late into pregnancy, and in rare situations, the rejection of the reality continues after birth, during which some women will disassociate themselves from the experience, as if they're viewing themselves from above, watching someone else give birth to the child.
That must be, I mean, like, if you don't want the baby, that's bad. But I feel like if you're giving birth, that might be a nice thing. You're like in the midst of labor pain and suddenly like, nope, not me.
Oh, you're watching someone out. Yeah. It's just like, I don't know, like
watching the midwife.
I can't understand someone disassociating that much, but yeah, watching the midwife. But it's just something that I found very interesting, how there were like, there's been so much like research into this because it's happened so often.
It's quite a
yeah, for sure.
One thing that Dr. Peter Harris said, he's a medical director from the Medical Health Services at New Jersey Shore Medical Center. He said that with babies, they just keep growing and growing and growing. They don't go away. And of course, in the crisis, when the baby is born, for 9 months, you must bury your head in the sand. You hope to wake up and the problem is resolved. And in crisis, kids do incredible things, like have a baby in half an hour, or maybe put it in a bag and put it in a trash can.
I'm more of a recycling kind of guy myself.
Or compost.
I guess that would be compost, yeah.
Yeah. So one more thing that he mentioned is that it's pretty amazing how good some teenagers are at hiding the fact that they're pregnant. So said Harris, who in his 20 years of medical career has counseled 4 or 5 women who hid their pregnancies and abandoned their newborns. In about half of those cases, the babies lived, he said, and in every instance, law enforcement officials became involved after the babies or bodies were discovered.
Wow.
And they live happily ever after?
Oh, God.
I would assume not. I'm trying to see what else I can pull out from this newspaper clipping, because there's a lot of like really interesting information related to this case. But I think I'll just move on from this little clipping.
Okay.
So she, of course, was taken into custody. She was arrested. She was sent to a trial. And the judge that was to proceed over her legal proceedings was Judge John A. Riccardi. And because the parents wanted to protect their daughter, even if it meant to give her less time or something, they hired a private lawyer to handle Melissa's defense. Her lawyer was named Stephen J. Sakar. I think that's how his last name is spelled, said. He was a lawyer based in Toms River in New Jersey. And one of the things that they brought up during the case was that the director of autopsy services, he ended up doing the autopsy, and he said that the discovery of air in the intestines also suggests that the infant's throat and the larynx were obstructed, perhaps broken, forcing air back into the stomach.
Oh, shit.
So once again, there was a debate of, was the baby born alive, or was it a stillborn? And according to the autopsy report, he was alive.
Yeah.
Poor Bebe.
Ah, fuck.
Yeah. So Melissa's defense, the lawyer, he focused on several key strategies to try to influence the outcome of the case. He focused on the emotional and psychological state of Melissa's condition, because they highlighted Drexler's extreme emotional distress and psychological state at the time of the incident, because this was crucial to portraying her actions as not necessarily thought out, more of like a heat of the moment, like a panic. Because for all she knew, she was going to go to prom and she was going to have the baby some other day. But it just happened to be on prom.
It just happened to be on prom.
Yeah.
And like,
Prom pen.
Yeah, because he also focused on that Melissa did not have the intent to kill the newborn. And then this point was supported by the fact that she had no prior criminal records. But at the same time, this is an 18-year-old, so I assume they wouldn't have a long criminal record, if at all any criminal records. Now, this is where, as I was finding this out, I freaked out for a moment. And I was going to say, Alexis, you know this person.
Oh, I do? Is it Josh Hutcherson?
No.
Is he the
no,
Prom Mom?
so what ended up happening was because, of course, they wanted to cause as much doubt that Melissa did this willingly. She had like evil intentions. They brought a forensic pathology expert to provide an independent review of the autopsy findings. So like a second professional. And his name, I don't know if this is going to ring a bell, Alexis, but his name was Dr. Cyril Wench.
What's his name?
Dr. Cyril Wench.
What? How do you spell that?
Okay, the reason I'm bringing do you know why?
Oh, I do know why. John F. Kennedy, brother.
What? Wait, hold on. Whoa. No.
what?
Didn't he work on the assassination of John F. Kennedy?
He was also, I don't know if that's true or not, but he was also involved in the case of O.J. Simpson.
Yes, that too. And also Elvis Presley.
Okay,
and
yeah.
I think John Benet Ramsey too.
Okay, but he was involved in the O.J. Simpson. That's the only one that I know, because it made that connection when I was reading articles, and I'm like, whoa.
Okay.
So this man has been involved
career.
in some, he's covered some dark cases. Yeah. He was involved in this as well. So Dr. Cyril Wench, his testimony just supported the idea that the baby was suffocated rather than being intentionally killed through strangulation. He said that, when they put him in the bags, he just suffocated himself. Which he tried to align that with the narrative of panic and distress with Melissa, rather than the premeditated murder.
Okay.
So yeah. So once again, the defense tried to get empathy from the judge, saying that Drexler's young age, she was 18 at the time of the incident, and her lack of prior legal issues and her significant emotional and psychological pressures were all factors that contributed to what ended up happening. and that it should all be taken in consideration when it comes to her sentencing. Because they knew that Melissa was going to get sentenced, they just try to get as few years as possible. So after all this work, on August 20th, 1998, this was a year after the incident, a little bit over a year, Melissa pleaded guilty to aggravated manslaughter as part of the plea deal. And the plea agreement just reduced the charge from murder to aggravated manslaughter. And considering her emotional state and the lack of prior criminal history, on October 29th, 1998, she was sentenced to 15 years in prison.
Damn.
And then she
that's
lived
it?
happily ever after.
So she was given 15 years in prison, and Melissa's boyfriend,
what date did this
John
happen
Lewis.
again?
This happened in 1997, and then she was sentenced in 1998.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she's happy.
So we'll talk about that. Yeah.
Yes.
So Drexler's boyfriend, John Lewis, he reportedly cried as the judge sentenced his girlfriend to 15 years in prison. And in addition to that, when she, at her sentencing, Drexler simply said that she was, quote, sorry, okay, end quote.
She's straightforward.
That's it? That's
Yep.
it?
So it kind of just goes back to showing you that her mental state, that she really disassociated from what she did.
I don't know. That sounds more
Fuck.
like it's not like she'd still be dissociating though. Sounds like she's just I don't know. I haven't heard her tone. Be all sorts
Yeah,
of
that's
emotions
true. I
boiling
guess
over.
that's true.
But
So
if just sorry, then
sorry,
Like-
okay, type of thing. Yeah, no, I don't
That
think
could
there was
be.
attitude. I mean, they just gave him 15 years.
Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah, she
Melissa
didn't
was.
have to say sorry, so good for her at least.
Yeah, I guess look at the bright side. Yeah. So Melissa was sent to the Edna Mann Correctional Facility for Women in Clinton, in New Jersey. And this is the state's only correctional facility for women. And it houses inmates with various security classifications, including maximum security. So there's a wide variety of people
It's a
there.
diverse prison.
Women. Yeah. When it comes to, yeah.
Right.
Now the
diversity.
facility offers educational and work opportunities, as well as counseling and other programs. So it would be in prison that she would spend the next years. And of course, she quickly found out that the roles were different from the society she had left. And I found a newspaper clipping where they talked to some prisoners there that she was in there. So I summarized a few of the things that they said, but here inmates say that women are judged on the types of crime they have committed, and neocide, the killing of a newborn, is at the bottom of the list. In a world of the inmates, and this was said by Deborah Litter. She was 33 at the time, who was serving a 25-year sentence from strong armed robbery and capital murder. So yeah, she's like, if you're here because you killed a newborn, you're at the bottom of the list. You're the worst of the worst. We don't.
The worst. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So officials at Edna Mahan Correctional Facility could not really say how many women at the county prison were there because they had killed their babies. But they did say that, but the prisoner that they interviewed said that she knows about 12 women serving time for murdering their children. Not necessarily infant, but just their children. So this woman, she said, were taunted, such as at a time when inmates would mock the people by sounds of crying babies.
Ugh.
What
and
the fuck?
yeah.
They're just okay.
So they're like, what are you here for? It's like, oh, I killed my newborn. And they would mock you.
Yeah.
You can lie about that in prison, just be like, I robbed somebody.
That's something interesting because the officer that got interviewed said, we actually tell them to not, disclose why they're in prison for with the other prisoners because of reasons like this.
Yep. You could lie, Like, I don't imagine it's easy to keep it away from other prisoners because they want to know. They're going to find something out.
I also
give them something that won't do that.
Yeah, but this is also like an 18-year-old. She could be quite naive in some aspects, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, on one hand, it's like, like, why would you murder like your own child? But on the other hand, like, you do have to think about the circumstances of like what drives a person to do that in the first place.
Yeah,
prison's supposed to be their punishment.
Yeah. So in addition to all that, sometimes they're even shunned as well. So you're completely cut off from like everyone there as well, other than people that would obviously talk to you, like maybe like, I don't know, officers or something like that. In addition to that, if these people receive financial support from their families, other inmates would often use the cash to buy cigarettes and coffee. So, when it came to commissary, you didn't even have that, privilege, I would say, because other inmates would pretty much take your commissary. Now, I did say that she was sentenced to 15 years in prison. And due to good behavior, Melissa would be let out in 3 years in parole. So she was released on parole on November 26, 2001. She only served 3 out of her 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So during her time in prison, Melissa got to complete her high school education. She received her diploma in 1997. In addition to that, she took some fashion courses while she was incarcerated. And she expressed hopes of working in the fashion industry upon her release. Now, something...
You say orange is the new black.
Now,
please don't sue our podcast.
Something very interesting that also I ended up coming across was that if Melissa had her baby 3 days later, like if the birth was 3 days later, and the death of the baby happened 3 days later, Melissa would have been sentenced under a new state law that would require people to serve, that are serving time to serve at least 80% of their time before becoming eligible for parole.
Oh, shit.
It really was a lucky birth. 30 minutes at the right time to not get in trouble for infanticide.
Yeah, so if it was 3 days later, she would have had to serve 12 years instead of 3.
Wow.
I forget. Is it because she turned 18 3 days later?
No, it was just a new state law that went into place.
Okay.
Yeah. So
before you think about killing your baby, look at your local statutes.
Yeah, educate yourself. Maybe talk to a therapist, a psychologist.
Or a lawyer.
Speak to your local Congress people.
Yeah. So when she got to go out and parole and everything, her lawyer still talked a little bit representing her because she wanted to be away from all social media, all newspapers, everything. So her lawyer said that Melissa has spent much of her time sleeping, while she and the baby's father, John Lewis, have continued their relationship. She spends most of her time alone in her bedroom, sitting at the edge of the bed, staring into space. And that earlier the year that she got released, she tried to get a job at a video store. But when the owner learned of her criminal history, he quickly backed away from hiring her.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So, like I said, she tried to stay
doesn't
away.
Mean you'd be bad at doing video stuff.
True, but
like you could still be qualified.
Yeah,
it's not films.
that just decided to not hire her.
Oh,
which
God. Did you just say snuff films?
you
You
did,
can edit that out.
or you can leave it in.
Yeah, or we can leave it in.
I mean, we gave everyone a warning.
You told them
Now
that I'm
I
a
tried
bad
to
person.
see what we knew of her nowadays, like in 2024. She really has kept off, mostly talking to press and things like that. So she's just a normal woman at this point, just living her life. She's now married. She has 2 kids, which
Oh.
I'm a big fan of a redemption tale.
which I assume it would be a tough story to disclose to your kids whenever they hear about that. So
Prefrontal lobe wasn't finished baking. I'm sorry.
fair.
I was just a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
She did
like
not
other
go
girls.
on to marry her high school boyfriend, so she married someone else.
Okay, good.
But John and Melissa did reconnect, and they're like still in touch, but they're not dating. They're just like
She's
acquaintances. I
married
would
with 2
say.
kids. I hope not.
No. So
Unless
that's the
they
story of
decide on
Prom Mom, Melissa Drexler, and I'd like to wrap up this story with some sources, some interesting things that I found, because in all 50 states, I don't know if you've heard of it, but there is what's called U.S. In all 50 states in the U.S., they have a safe haven law,
Yeah.
sometimes known as Baby Moses Law or Safe Surrender Laws, depending on, from the state.
Yeah.
And these laws are to allow parents or people with legal custody to confidently surrender a newborn infant within 72 hours of the birth without fearing arrest or prosecution for the child's abandonment.
Mhm.
So the
I mean,
law,
they have
what
those
the
little
law,
areas at fire
go ahead.
stations, right? I was just going to
Yeah,
say,
like
there's
in
a pop-up area at fire stations, isn't there? Or is that just...
I think so.
Yeah.
You have to look it up because it's different in every state.
Yeah. I do think
I mean, the
though,
locations are different in
like-
every state.
typically though it's like one of the locations is just like a fire station. Like you can drop them off in front of a fire station and
Yeah, because
you
the
can
law's
drop your
purpose
voter's
is just to
registration
save more
stuff
lives.
at the
Mhm.
library. You can drop your newly born
Yeah,
baby
so
at the fire
it's
station.
meant to save lives of infants when something like Melissa Drexler's situation could have happened. Maybe if she had her kid outside of prom, she would have taken him here. It's something we don't know. But yeah, if you're in need, please search for your closest haven location. Yeah.
Do you know if this case like affected the implementation of these laws or?
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they were already in effect during Melissa's time.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it became more accessible or they added more locations. That is something I would have to look up, but I'm not sure, to be honest.
Okay. Got it.
And they lived happily ever after.
That is Prom Mom. Apparently now she's trying to live her normal life.
Yeah, like, okay.
I believe in redemption, like I said.
So I would say good for her, you know.
I guess so. Like, I'm glad she's doing better. And like in a place that's, I guess, recovered from all of that.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine that there's not a day, I mean, maybe a day or two, but like when she meets new people or when she started dating again, when she met her husband, she would at some point have to disclose this
Probably,
information about her. Or because if not, someone was going to tell him or he was going to find out through someone else.
Yeah.
I think that even though she's out and she's trying to live a normal life, this is not something she can like truly get away from. It's just something that
she never,
had stabbed
Give a TED talk.
Yeah, to her kids.
Yeah.
To her in-laws. I imagine.
Don't kill your babies. This is why.
Don't kill your babies. Yep.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think of like, now you talk to your in-laws. How are you going to disclose this information to them?
Yeah, I mean, that 100%.
The in-laws don't have to know.
Ruined her life.
No, but at some point, someone's going to tell them.
Probably. I just stick to letting the partner know, and then the partner can choose.
Tell the
whether-
in-laws. Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you want to, but like you might just want to be like, nope.
Fair. Yeah. And then I'm sure the whole conversation of like, hey, do you want to have kids? It's like because of your past type of thing.
Mhm.
I mean, it seems, she's okay with she has 2 kids, so that's great. But yeah, that's the story of Prom Mom. I hope you enjoyed it as much as
Thank
you
you.
could enjoy it.
Yeah. It's honestly a little bit jarring hearing how like casual of a name they give to like this case, like Prom Mom.
Yeah,
That's just
no.
like
Definitely.
like
It's
okay.
nicer than what they could have come up with.
No, definitely.
Murder mommy.
And that's why I was like, oh, Prom Mom. I think I recognize this at like the start.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't know anything about
One
it.
more thing.
I thought it was going to be like some weird older woman coming to prom or something.
No, there has been a lot of references made to this case in pop culture. One example that I can think of right now, I don't have the other ones with me, but there was a musical number in Family Guy
No way.
about dumpster
Prom.
baby prom. What was it?
What is it? It's a prom night dumpster baby. A prom night dumpster baby.
That's insane.
Yeah, so
actually kind of a catchy tune.
It's unfortunate. It is.
But
And-
in defense of Family Guy, in that one the baby doesn't die. The baby's
that's
just
true. Having a musical
like
number.
out and then left, and then the baby just does this dancing scene with other babies.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. There's also been like other TV shows that have made references to Prom Mom. So it unfortunately became a part of pop culture and all that stuff. But
it's so gruesome.
Yeah.
It could be like a hashtag, like "We got pregnant at prom." Hashtag Prom Mom.
Prom Mom.
No. No, don't use that.
So if you guys would like to contact us or our podcast, just make sure you put that hashtag Prom Mom at the end.
At the
No, do
subject.
not listen to him. Do not listen to
Subject.
him. Jesse is a guest for a reason.
Go ahead and email the podcast all of your feelings. Do you think that Prom Mom should be a hashtag? Answer now.
And for
I don't
proper
have to check
identification
the email.
reasons, you also need to include your social security number and address. Thank you very
Your
much.
mother's maiden name,
Mm-hmm.
the name of your first pet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just helps us with demographic purposes,
But yeah, so that is all for Prom Mom.
Well, thanks for that case.
Guys, I just realized
Thank
I'm actually
you.
more of like the opposite of a diversity guest. I'm like the only white cis male
Well-
here. I mean, not cis, but I mean just like if you
Okay, I mean, I guess isn't that
everyone
like
here is gay or anything like that.
no, like you balance it out, like
I
you
do. Make
Yeah.
Republicans feel comfortable listening to it
exactly.
until they figure out the whole gay part. With
Oh God, there's a really bad joke I could make about Republicans right now, but I'm not going to make that on the podcast.
Oh, I mean, I made
Fair.
fun of New Jersey, so it's
You did make fun of New Jersey, but that's just everyone makes fun of New Jersey.
sorry, New Jersey. I'm sure I've never actually been to you. You could be lovely for all I know.
Yeah.
Let's see, New Jersey.
So yeah, who's next?
I guess it's me.
You have the paranormal for us?
I do. It's not like a
Wait, hold on. Is my-
straight up paranormal case, and that's because paranormal cases are surprisingly hard to find. Actually, like surprisingly hard to.
I think Jesse's trying to fix his mic.
They're
Oh,
not super
I see.
informative.
Yeah, they're usually like small cases that don't have much info. Jesse, are you good?
I'm trying to be good.
Okay, we can hear you.
You're good.
You're a little
Yeah.
quiet. Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Why am I so quiet? I can see my voice bar. It's so much. I can shout.
I don't know. I was gonna say I
Save your
think the
voice.
longer you talk to, the like louder like it picks up. I don't know.
I'm gonna try something.
Okay.
Doop.
Well, while Jesse is
Two. You
Trying,
can hear me okay Yeah.
I-
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I think you're good.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well,
All right. Well, I
you're-
guess to start my case, I also have a question for you guys.
Okay.
yes, I went to prom already. God.
Okay, but
Many
have you ever
times.
seen like a witch at prom?
I mean,
I'm
yes,
sorry?
actually. I mean, I've seen pagans at prom. Sounds like
Nice. Okay, when you guys think of a witch, like what do you picture?
I'm gonna be honest. I picture the typical wart on the nose, a witch hat,
Okay.
all black.
As an atheist pagan, I look at myself and I think, damn, that's a hot witch.
Oh.
Well, nowadays, like, there's a different image of witches. I also think of Wicked, but then I'm also like, that's a musical, and that's not all the witches. They're not green.
They're all green.
They're all green on the inside with jealousy.
Why would they be jealous? They're the ones that can do witch stuff.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think being a witch would be super fun.
Alexis, what do you think of witches?
Alexis is a witch.
Yep.
So should I pick
Yeah.
Alexis when I think of witches now?
Be careful what you say next, because I will put a hex on you.
Dark-haired Latinas. Those are witches.
Wait, what?
Dark-haired
Dark-haired
Latinas.
Oh. What?
Widowing. Brujeria.
Anyway. Yeah.
B and it's like Spanish for witch, right? Bruja. Something like
Wait,
that.
what?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Bruja.
You're also a little
Uh-huh.
quiet.
Yeah.
Damn it, why am I quiet? I'm just trying to live my life.
Squadcast
well,
knows
I
that.
know how to project my voice because of my job. Is that any better?
That is
Yeah,
a lot
it
better,
is.
actually. Yeah.
That actually is better.
I'm very loud right now,
Oh
actually.
my
but-
god.
Better?
Loud.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
You're
Okay,
fine with
now
me?
it's just overreacting. But, okay, well, anyway, it's fine. Keep going. Yeah, let's hear
All right.
about this brew.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, do you guys, where am I going with this?
Yes, where are you going with this?
Good question.
I mean, do you guys picture just like you see like a random girl on the street and you'd be like, oh yeah, that's a witch.
I do.
Oh, no.
Multiple times I've been in trouble for
Honestly,
seeing
yeah.
a woman and just start
Oh.
throwing rocks at her. I'm like, witch.
Calling her a witch.
Oh my
And
god.
they're like, Jesse, you can't do that at work. And then HR gets involved.
And you guys just introduced my case for me. Welcome to
Wait.
the Salem Witch Trials.
Oh.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that I do know something about.
Witch trials?
You guys are literally like the proprietor, like the perpetrators of the witch trials. And you just gave me that at events. So
Excuse me, only one got like crushed to death, I think.
you're exactly right.
You think?
I know everything.
So I was like looking for a case and I realized that like the Salem Witch Trials, they are literally like something that everybody knows. Like we all know what that is. Like I've grown up knowing about the Salem Witch Trials, but I realized I've never actually read into it at all. Like,
how
I
many
don't-
details do we know?
No, like I don't know what happened, what started it.
Well,
or
if you want a
anything.
fictional event, Salem is a really good television series.
Okay.
Do not use it for history. It has little tiny pieces of history. It's like the Winchester movie. But like,
I will use it for history. Thank you, Jesse.
okay, well, you should watch it because it's kind of badass.
Got it.
Hey guys, listeners, did you know that in the Victorian era, people would use urine, they would fermented urine as bleach for their clothes when they were
Hell, what
washing them?
intelligent person shared that with you?
That
Go to your
is
local
thanks to
room
Jesse.
and try it out.
Yeah, and now that you've heard that from us, we don't have to repeat that ever again.
Well, I'm going to. Everyone at my job needs to know this.
Oh my god. Okay,
You know what? That would be
so
a fun icebreaker thing.
wait, what would? Like,
Hi, my
Like-
name's Jesse, and I know that fermented urine can be used to bleach clothing.
Yeah.
Hey, now
Or you
you
could
say
say, I used to
something
talk
ridiculous.
about, fermented urine being used to bleach clothing. Yeah.
hi, my name's Jesse, and I would throw stones at a little girl walking down the street because she looks like a witch.
I didn't say she was a little girl. Use fire for them.
You foul,
Just
foul
kidding.
man.
No, little girls are nice, and little
I'm
girls
sorry.
are sounding bad. Nope, ending
I don't
that sentence.
See you throwing rocks at people. I see you throwing pebbles at people, though.
I
Or
To
don't
like
annoy
know.
them more than
crystals.
anything.
You're a witch, Devil.
Pebble. Yeah, that's what I see more of you rather than rocks.
Just a slight annoyance rather than any actual damage.
Yeah.
That's
You
usually
see
what I do.
the lady covering her
annoying.
head and like running away.
They got me.
Okay, now we're getting to the Puritan stuff. That's for
Yes.
sure. So the Salem Witch Trials, they started in February of 1692. They ended pretty abruptly in May of 1693, so just a little over a year after. So in the witch trials alone, honestly, there was a lot less people than I realized that were actually involved. I don't know, it felt like such a bigger thing, like what I've learned. There were over 200 people accused in the trials, but there were really only about 25 to 30 people that were actually found guilty, and about 25 that did lose their lives. 19
per month.
What?
That's 2 per month.
You just did that? Yeah.
I mean, you said like 25, and I'm like, that's close to like 24. So 2 per month.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Wow, that's a lot.
I'm not good at
at
No, but like I thought it was
Two people
such a
dying
huge
per month.
thing. Oh, that's nothing. Yeah, I mean they would have died of disease anyway. Sorry. Yeah. So 19 were executed. About 5 people died while they were in jail. Some died after torture, and like Jesse mentioned, there was a man who actually died by being essentially like pressed and like stoned to death.
I apologize if I gave
but
spoilers.
I will get into that in just a bit. No, you're perfectly fine. But first, I guess some context behind witchcraft, behind witch hunts during that era. The Salem Witch Trials, they happened pretty late in, I guess, the era of witchcraft and its prominence.
I assume you mean of like charging people with witchcraft.
Yes, like in terms of trials and when it was like the witchcraft craze going around and the fear.
People stopped being
going
witches
as
around this
well.
time, so it was weird when people started getting charged.
Exactly. No, yeah. So witch hunts primarily happened actually in Europe, starting around the 1300s all the way to the 1600s, and they sort of faded off after that. But it's just because there was such a prominence on like puritanical Christianity back then, and there was just widespread fear that people were going around and essentially making deals with the devil to serve him, gaining
Like
powers
their own
in the process. What?
Oh no.
It seems like their own business.
Exactly. Like I wouldn't really mind.
For maybe like crop failures and whatnot.
Yeah. And so, but especially when the number of people involved in Salem alone, it seemed a little small compared to the entirety of people during the few hundred years when witch hunts were taking place. During around the 1300s to the 1600s, it's believed that there are about 110,000 people that were tried for witchcraft, and about 40 to 60,000 of those people were eventually executed because of it. So that is a ton of people.
Yeah, compared to what you said before, that's a big number.
Yes. Yes. And so I guess that's what I meant by that.
America needs to step up its game. Just kidding. Please don't hunt your local witches. They're just
No,
fine.
please.
No, especially because now that like people are more
Witches
like
are, like,
openly
good,
about it.
Yeah. Witches are just like people who like crystals nowadays. Like,
Exactly.
so
They're not
different.
hurting anyone.
It is so different. I have
It's like
crystals in my
shiny
room right
rocks
now.
in the environment.
Exactly. But yeah, I guess there was that. And so the Salem Witch Trials happening in 1692 was actually pretty interesting because, like, you know, like I mentioned, it was already kind of gone away with at the time. People weren't overly concerned with witchcraft. And I guess the fear that came along with it.
So was it just like a handful of people that decided to take it back up?
Pretty much. Yeah. So the way it all started was there was actually the Salem Witch Trials sort of happen in two different towns. They're right next to each other in Massachusetts. There was the more rural Salem Village, which today is known as Danvers, Massachusetts. And next to it was Salem Town, which is what we nowadays know as just Salem in Massachusetts. So there was the two different cities, and their like political climate was a lot different because Salem Town was like prosperous. It was the more populous of the two cities, whereas Salem Village was in more of like despair. It was a lot more poor, a lot more like stress and distrust within the community there. So the events primarily happened in Salem Village. Started in February of 1692. A girl named Betty Paris, she was 9 years old, and her cousin Abigail Williams, she was 11. Betty was the daughter of Reverend Samuel Paris from Salem Village, so a respected figure in the village. Abigail was, of course, his niece. The two of them kind of together, they started having like fits of witchcraft, essentially, as it was described. Described as, quotes, like beyond the power of epileptic fits or natural disease to affect. That was quoted by John Hale. He was essentially the like nearby doctor of the town who came to examine them. It said that Betty and Abigail, the girls, they threw things around the room, they screamed, they crawled on their furniture, contorted themselves, and they just like babbled and said strange sounds. So they were eventually pretty much diagnosed with like enwitchment, like they were infected with witchcraft. Yeah.
I love that word.
Yeah.
That's
so like
quite the diagnosis.
Exactly, you know, the doctors
I would love
did a
to show
great
up at
job.
work and be like, hey, I have a doctor's note. I'm going to be out for the next, 2 months. I've been diagnosed with enwitchment.
Enwitchment. Yeah, sorry, a witch got to me the other day.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling too good. Sorry, I can't be there. But yeah, that's pretty much like what they were diagnosed with, because of course that was the known fear, the known thing back then was witchcraft. They didn't have
Was
the
it really
medical
known,
knowledge we have now.
or were they afraid of the unknown?
That's exactly what it was. The doctor, John Hale, he had, they had the Dr. John Hale and also a man named William Griggs, who's believed to. Those doctors, they had no clue. They had no clue what was going on with the girls, historically.
Yes, they did. It's enwitchment.
Exactly. No, they were witches. Yeah. The witches got to them, and
I
they
do
were
feel
now...
like a lot of things can fall under the category of enwitchment.
Mm-hmm. I love that word
that.
now. Thank you.
I just
So-
want it on a t-shirt. Just enwitchment. No more context. That's it.
Enwitchment. Can we please make that our merch?
Yeah.
Alexis will be the model.
Yes.
And then we'll do just from like, we'll crop your head out, right?
Yeah.
No, you
Yeah.
can't. You can keep it in there, but we're gonna Photoshop my face to make it witchier.
Oh.
What?
In what way?
You can Photoshop my face on her.
Yes, Photoshop
Yeah.
Jesse's face onto them. I think that's perfect.
Are you saying
Anyway.
Jesse's face for the model or Jesse's face on a t-shirt?
Or the model, you know, whichever. I don't
Either.
know.
Jesse's face on the t-shirt, and he's also the model wearing the t-shirt.
Yes.
My head is. Yeah, Alexis's body.
Yeah, but it's Alexis. Yeah, perfect. Cool.
We figured it out.
I'm glad we're decided.
Back to Betty and Abigail.
Yes.
The two
I have heard of
girls.
Abigail, but I don't know much of her.
Okay. Yeah. So, the doctors, they didn't find any physical evidence of anything. And that's when some other young girls in Salem Village as well, they started to exhibit some similar behaviors of, contorting their bodies, screaming sounds, enwitchment once again.
Maybe there was like a disease going on or something.
Yeah. There are some theories, and I'll get into that in just a little bit, but there's some, I think, very plausible explanations for what did happen. But being that these two girls, Betty and Abigail, were like the daughter and the niece of the very respected reverend in the village, they needed to find who did this to them, the witches that infected them. And so pretty shortly after, what?
With witchery, right? Or what was the word?
With witchcraft, I guess so, yeah.
Well, like the diagnosis
witchment?
Kind of thing? Witchment, that's what, yeah.
How could you forget that word? It's amazing. Do better.
Because it has the word men in it. Usually it was meant for women, not witch men.
And witch woman, that doesn't sound quite as catchy.
No.
So yeah, the first people that were afflicted were, of course, Betty Paris, Abigail Williams, another girl named Ann Putnam Jr. She was 12, another girl named Elizabeth Hubbard. And so the four of these girls were sort of like questioned in a way about who did this to them. And so very quickly there were 3 people that were accused and arrested for infecting and witching these girls. The first was a lady named Sarah Good. Sarah Good, she pretty much was a lady who lived in Salem Village. She was very poor. She was a beggar. And definitely just people pretty much just didn't like her in the village. And
would you really be poor? I feel like you'd want to do something to better yourself if you were a witch.
Good was also in her name. How could they not like her?
Exactly.
Or was it like a cover-up?
I don't know. So I guess it was also sort of determined that people just didn't like her because she was accused of rejecting like good, like puritanical Christian ideals and teaching those to children. Apparently she chose to torment and, quote, scorn children instead of leading them towards the path of salvation. So she was one of the first to be accused and brought in. Yeah, you'd be accused to be a witch, Jesse.
I don't know. I mean, teaching them the way of salvation, all that stuff, doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun either way. So.
You'll pass on it.
I'm good.
I feel like you'd say double and pass it to the next person.
I choose that one.
Yeah.
I'm not a witch. Double it. Next person. Get 2 witches instead of me.
Sorry, guys. Reverse Uno.
Could you imagine if like people said that back in the day? It's like, you're a witch. It's like double it and give it to the next person. Or like reverse Uno.
So
I feel like
Maybe
if you were
just-
to reply with double it and give it to the next person, you would get accused about that being a hex or something.
100%. They would immediately take you to the hanging
Like, she's
gallows.
casting a hex or something, yeah.
So the next person to be accused was also a Sarah. Her name was Sarah Osborne, though. And Sarah Osborne did not have as good of a reason, I guess. She was also just a social outcast in the village. She was also very poor. But Sarah Osborne, or this girl, apparently she just never attended church because she never attended church. It was suspected that due to a long illness that was suspected to be depression. So she was accused of being a witch because she was depressed. So that's pretty cool, I would say.
I don't see Miss Osborne at church today. Do you know where she's at?
She's practicing being a witch.
I think she's at home with that witch thing called what's it called? Depression.
Depression.
Only witches get depression.
Oh, we are living in a time of witchcraft together.
Yes, we are.
Half of the witches that I see on TikTok also are depressed, so maybe.
Those poor baby witches weren't able to do whatever they wanted to the moon. I forget what what was it they were trying to do to the moon? All the baby TikTok witches?
I don't know.
Tried to do something to it.
Was it
the normal witches just trying to get rid of Trump?
Oh.
Anyway, that's why it's important to stay on your TikTok news.
That's important. That's why it's important to not be depressed, because you might get accused of being a witch.
Yeah.
So that was that. Sarah Osborne, she also married an indentured servant who lived in the town of the Salem village, and so people were very just distrustful, disapproving of her, both Sarah Osborne and Sarah Good. The third person who was accused was a lady named Tituba.
Now that's a witch's name.
Yes. Yeah.
Tituba.
Tituba was she was an enslaved woman in the village. She
no one's safe.
Yeah. So she was in sort of the historical document, she's referred to as Indian, but she is not. She is a South American woman from probably the Caribbean, sort of around like the West Indies, where she was taken from and then enslaved in the town of Salem Village. And so she was a slave. People didn't like her. She was a, darker skinned woman. And of course, all of that immediately just points to, yes, she's of course a slave. We're going to accuse her. Or she's a witch. Yep. She apparently she was accused of attracting girls like the ones who were enwitched, with stories of witchcraft and enchantment, and sort of swaying the minds of the young children in the village to turn them towards witchcraft. She, of course, also was, just another outcast, another poor woman in the village because she was a slave. So for those three girls, Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne, and Tituba, there was just no way they could defend themselves. They were immediately brought up to be accused. This is kind of where it gets good, though, I think. Okay. Thank you. This is where it gets kind of good, because during their trials, essentially, Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne, they adamantly just denied. They adamantly refused to admit that they were guilty. They did not practice witchcraft. They did not spread it. But
I wonder why they'd say that.
I wonder why. But Tituba, she just said, yeah, I'm a witch.
Might as
she
well.
just admitted She just
told you.
admitted to
I
witchcraft.
told you she was one.
She,
Americans back then didn't really listen to people of color. So, I mean, the smart way, as she did, was probably just to be like, yep,
Along with it,
yeah.
1 out of 3 women in Salem get accused of witchcraft, and only one
Yeah.
of them is a witch. I don't know where I was going with this.
Want to try that again?
No.
Fair.
Oh, maybe 1 out of 3 women that are accused of witchcraft are actually witches. Boom.
Well, I'm not
Yeah,
a
and
witch.
I feel like the people
You're
who are
not a
oppressed
witch.
and poor would like be doing a lot more damage. I would anyway, if I actually had those powers and was like enslaved. So,
I don't know. But yeah, I think it was kind of a girl boss move by Tituba because she admitted she was guilty, but instead of just like just facing the consequences, she tried to like get herself out by essentially turning herself into an informant for the other witches in the village.
make those white ladies pay.
It was the mole.
So yeah, so she accused Sarah Osborne and Sarah Good. So it made things worse for them. And she said there are also 7 more witches in the village that needed to be found.
Tituba, damn girl, you got some vengeance in you.
So she very quickly spread like widespread fear of witches in the village. And that's how it blew up.
I feel like anyone that did her wrong is now scared for their life.
100%. Because, like, I mean, think about it. Like, she was a slave in this village. She didn't care about anyone, probably. Like, she
Oh, look
hated
at
them
this.
all.
How else are you, as a woman and a woman of color, going to get some power in that society?
Exactly.
You just found a way.
Fair.
Exactly. So, I don't know.
Good for her.
She was very smart for that. Yeah, good for her.
I mean, I'm sorry to those who weren't bad that got,
yeah.
called out. But, yeah, that's all I actually had to say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so but a lot of these girls, of course they were interrogated for several days. They were trying to go around to accuse more people of witchcraft, I guess. And there were some more people that were accused. A lady named Martha Corey, Rebecca Nurse, a Rachel Clinton in one of the nearby cities as well. But one of the, I guess, most interesting accusations to me is a girl named Dorothy Good. She was the 4-year-old daughter of Sarah Good. This girl was only 4 years old.
I'm sorry, she's not the only witch. Her 4-year-old is also a witch.
Exactly. So they interrogated Dorothy.
She's 4.
Yeah. And they took her fear and her apprehension to answer questions as admissions of guilt.
So you're questioning a 4-year-old, and if they seem nervous, that's a yes on the witch.
They're a witch. Yep. Yep.
No. No.
Legit.
So Martha Corey, though, one of the other ladies who was accused, actually, her accusation, she was accused on September 9th of 1692. She was eventually hanged on September 22nd of 1692. But the accusation of Martha stirred up a lot of things because Martha was actually a full member of the church in Salem Village. So people were like, if Martha is a witch, then anybody could be a witch.
Yeah.
Even her name screams, I'm a goody churchgoer.
Yes.
Martha.
And so that's when things went crazy. That's when, Dorothy Good, the 4-year-old girl, got questioned afterwards.
Wait, so Martha was like what opened up the floodgates?
Yes. Yes. And so there was so much fear after what happened, and that was really what spread all of this. So, like I mentioned, there was a lot of political turmoil between the towns of Salem Village and Salem Town that were right next to each other. And that really pushed forward these trials a lot. So Salem Village was essentially power hungry. They were trying to establish their own municipality. They were trying to prove that they were good to Salem Town. So they appointed some head figures. They appointed essentially like a mayor, just new management that came in along with the fear. And so in order to get things going, they just quickly pushed forward these trials for all of this witchcraft. And of course, you know, like we know, there was the ways they would try to prove people were a witch. If you throw them in the water and they survive, they're a witch. But if they drown, then, well, they're not a witch, but they're dead. There was never
maybe.
There was never any rhyme or reason. Yeah. Like, that is... Humans are so stupid. Like, how did we...
Like, if your body had, like, imperfections, you were a witch?
Seriously, yeah. Like, if they would check for, like, moles and birthmarks on your body, and if you had, like, too many of them, you were a witch, because that was a natural...
So specifically looking for, like, human things. Like...
Literally.
Wouldn't that mean that, like, all,
swim.
like... French royalty were witches because they had like that mold like drawn on them?
Yeah, but they drew it on, so it's okay.
Yeah, but
if the devil drew it on you, that's when you're in trouble.
Fair.
No, seriously, yeah. Like moles, birthmarks and stuff, they were just associated with the devil. Like they were marks from the devil on these bodies and
oh no.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking of this that as soon as they announce like if you're born with like a mole, you're a witch. I want to picture or like imagine that someone gave birth, they saw their child with like a mole, and they're like, "Oh no, I gave birth to a witch.
The devil came out of me. Back in it goes."
Exactly.
Quick. Strangle it and then put it in a garbage can. Wait,
the
is that too
common
soon?
sense back in the day was wild.
It seriously was. They just let all of like the fear just completely rule them. So for the courts, the court proceedings, because they did actually go to trial for these things, which is still crazy. There was actually a special court that was created just for the prosecution of the witches. It was called the Court of Oyer and Terminer, I think. I don't know. I'm not going to try to pronounce those any other way. So there was a new court that was formed on June 2nd of 1692. William Stoughton, he was the lieutenant governor. He was the chief magistrate of the court. And William Stoughton was, of course, a heavy, New England Puritan. So there was, of course, zero, separation of like church and state or whatever it may have been. All of his things were ruled part of that court as part of the Puritan lifestyle. So anything that went against that was evidence that you were a witch. The first person that was officially brought to the grand jury, her name was Bridget Bishop. Bishop, she did not live a Puritan lifestyle. She apparently wore black clothing and odd costumes, and that was against the Puritan laws.
Sounds like Alexis.
Exactly. That's why Alexis is a witch.
Quick, get the pebbles.
I'm gonna get some crystals. I'm like,
but yeah, so everything about her lifestyle went against the Puritan ways. So this, along with her quote immoral lifestyle, made the jury just decide that she was a witch. She was convicted on the same day that she was sent to trial.
I was going to ask, what do you mean immoral lifestyle? The way she dressed?
Like her not going to church, her dressing in all black, her wearing
odd costumes, as it were.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Bishop was later executed on June 10th of 1692 by hanging, and so she was, of course, one of the 19 that was executed by hanging during this time. So throughout the year, February of 1692 to May of 1693, there was a lot of trials that went into place. Like I mentioned, more than 200 people were accused, but roughly only around 30 of them were found guilty. But in May of 1693, the witch trial just sort of like very abruptly stopped. There was no more evidence of people practicing witchcraft in the village. The special court that was created was dissolved. There was really no like rhyme or reason why it stopped in the way that it did. But
did Shuba just stop finding witches?
I guess so. So what happened with Tituba actually was, so after she was accused, she was thrown into jail. She was left in prison from February of 1692 up until May of 1693. So she was in prison a little bit for over a year. She eventually was brought up to that grand jury, but they rejected the charges that were brought against her. And she was released. She was released. Her enslaver paid her jail debts, and nothing else is known about her after that. So she just left at that time to do her own thing.
Being enslaved or being imprisoned? I guess it depends on what kind of work you're doing.
I guess it does, yeah.
Slavery was pretty bad as far as I can tell. Jail is bad. But it has
jail
less
back in the day,
spoil, I think.
Interesting.
So I guess I'll briefly go over a few more of the people who are accused. So Bridget Bishop, she was the first that I mentioned. There was Tituba. There was a man named George Jacobs Sr. He was
George Jacobs
Senior. He was living in the Salem village. He was a farmer, a country farmer. He suffered from arthritis. He used 2 canes to walk because of it, so he was really slow. And also because of this, he just did not attend church regularly.
This is why he said he's a witch.
Mm-hmm. He was an old.
If he was a witch, he wouldn't make his legs work again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know. He was an old timer farmer. He was a hardened personality. It said he was known for a violent temper and defiant spirit, and so that, along with his disability, made him a witch.
I love the evidence that they're bringing to the court case.
Mm-hmm.
His personality and his canes and lack of attendance to church.
But the thing is, his granddaughter is the one that accused him.
Bitch.
Yeah, granddaughter's name was Margaret.
So
I guess she just hated her grandpa.
I assumed that granddaughter was not left on the will.
Definitely not. Yeah. So George Jacobs Sr., he was brought to court accused, and in August of 1692, he was sentenced to death by hanging. So, 2 other people, or actually 3 people. They're all sisters. A girl named Rebecca Nurse, Mary Esty, and Sarah Cloyce. They were all sisters from a nearby town of Topsfield, Massachusetts. It was right next door. They were all married. Rebecca, she was elderly at the time. She was a respected member of the church. However, she was not able to actually prevent herself from defending herself in court because she was nearly deaf. So when she was brought to court, they were nope.
Not
So
the
the people who
children.
are worse off are the witches. The ones who are supposedly with the means to better their lives with magic are instead lighting crops and not helping their own maladies.
I think it's so insane. Like, she was brought to court. The jury initially did not want to convict her, but the judges literally asked the jury to reconsider. So they did, and they decided Rebecca was guilty of witchcraft and hanged as well.
Or
yeah. So there were the other 2 sisters as well, Mary and Sarah. Mary was also put before the court, but she tried to expose the flaws within the court, but that, of course, only furthered the distrust for her, and so
An educated woman. She's a witch.
an educated woman, and they executed her for that. And the 3rd sister, Sarah, she actually was left in prison for months, but she was eventually cleared of her charges. It's actually still unknown why Sarah was cleared, but she was let free.
No. Did anyone ever accuse the judge?
you mean the reverse Uno card again?
Yeah. Or like the bishop or like someone in power? Because that's what should have happened.
I don't know. I'm sure some of them did, and I'm sure some of them probably were found guilty of witchcraft in doing so.
Witchcraft, the great equalizer.
I mean, if they accuse me, I'm like, the judge and the bishop are in cahoots. They want to be the only witches in town. I don't know.
And
again, you guys should see Salem. Salem has a good back plot for it because the witches are real in Salem. The movie, not the movie.
I assume so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the last person I want to talk about, though, is named Giles Corey. And so Giles is actually the, I believe, brother of Martha Corey, the one lady who was also hanged I mentioned earlier. She was the well-respected member of the church, and she's the reason she's the gateway for the widespread panic of who could be a witch. So in March of 1692, Giles, he actually testified in court that Martha had bewitched him and his farm animals. Yeah. And so that's
in any way?
I don't know. And so that's why Martha was brought up in the first place. Now Giles was later on in court, he was ordered to participate in the trial, but he refused. And so the court tried to extract a plea out of him, like a plea deal to get some more information. But he was ordered to be pressed under stones in order to extract this information. Giles did not cooperate. And so Giles was the man who was pressed to death under the stones.
I forgot that someone got pressed.
Yeah. But also, because he remained silent and there was no information he could have given, Martha was, of course, later on, convicted and then hanged as well. So,
But did you guys hear what Giles Corey said? His last words?
No.
No.
More weight.
Oh, good for him.
Did he actually?
Yeah, not even imminent death to convince him to go to trial. So they're trying to get him to do it, and his last words, more weight. At least according to legend.
I love that.
That's what makes him
Which
the
are the
real
few records
Salem
that we have.
MVP.
Why do the Salem Witch Trials seem so unserious? Like with Tituba, the Corey family.
Because the Puritans were Puritans and they were doing unpure things.
True. Now, there is sort of like one theory that a lot of people are trying to, I guess, research more about of the reason why the Salem trials even happened in the first place. There's been like research by doctors and scientists over the years. Of course, it's nothing actually like widely fully accepted scientifically. But there is a certain disease. It's called ergotism. It's essentially a fungal growth that happens in rye. So it can be used to make rye bread, rye wheat, and rye whiskey, things like that. So the grain, of course, that was very popularly grown and consumed around Salem Village and Salem Town. So in lots of research over the years, there's specifically one doctor. Her name is Dr. Linda Caporeal. In 1976, she was actually doing some evidence or some research, and her evidence that she found, it supported the idea that the quote unquote like enrichment and the witchcraft that was being displayed in some of these kids was because of the ergotism or ergot disease, that fungal disease in rye. So back then, that's what a lot of them ate. And so it was a disease in the rye. And when it could be eaten, it would make someone exhibit all of the symptoms that were very common with being enwitched. The babbling, the sort of weird body movements, the sudden illness, the fever. It was a very common disease from back during that time because the ergotism disease on rye develops after a very cold winter and then a very wet spring that happens immediately after. And so the whole witch trial started in February. So apparently the conditions were perfect to create this disease on the rye. And that's also why it ended so abruptly in May, because all of the diseased rye was gone at that point. Nobody else was eating it. So nobody else was getting infected.
People that should have been taken to court were the farmers and the bakers.
Exactly.
As it should be. Kidding.
I've heard of that theory. I completely forgot about it until you brought it up, and then you started describing it, and I'm like, I've heard of it. But
hopefully that's it. Otherwise, I wouldn't necessarily.
Did no one think to go to a doctor before accusing people of witchcraft?
Well, they did. It's just the doctors didn't know what it was. Like,
just didn't do things very well back then. It was kind of like heads or tails. Sometimes what they did made it worse.
It was like, let's kind of guess what's happening here.
It wasn't caused by like bloodletting or like hot blood.
I found a cool set of bloodletting tools from the 1800s that were being sold for only like $100 something, and I was so tempted to get it. My Jesse,
let's try it out. Yeah, let's try it out.
I wouldn't. Yeah, no, I wouldn't. They looked rusty. As though that's the only reason not to.
I don't know. I love to think about how, I guess not love, but it's
I love to think about this.
it's so interesting to think how like this entire phenomena of the witch trials could have happened because of rotted rye wheat, the panic spread by somebody admitting that she's a witch, and also just the political climate of fear of witchcraft during that time. It all came together to create what is one of the most talked about, widespread, and captivating
And pop culture.
pieces of culture of his history that is out there. And I don't know, it's like something that is just so incredibly crazy to think about. But anyway, that's the Salem Witch Trials. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, does that mean it's Little Mai's turn?
I think so.
I think it's either you or Alexis.
Okay, I can do this. First, I
You got
want
this,
to
you got
apologize to my
this.
family, especially you, Mom, for any of the bad words I might say. You know, things like darn, drat, shoot, shit, fuck, bitch. Anyway, so guys, out of curiosity, have you guys heard about the Titanic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dad, right?
Yeah.
So my story
Alexis
has nothing
knows
to
the
do with
story.
that whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
I just
awesome.
wanted to let you know it was sad.
Thank you.
Anyway,
Uh-huh.
I'm reporting on the Butcher Baker of Alaska, one of Alaska's
Ooh.
most prolific serial killers.
I
Anyone
really
hear
thought you were going
Okay.
to cover the Titanic.
Nope. Okay, so
Yeah.
he's basically the true version of The Most Dangerous Game. Were any of you guys forced to read that in high school?
No.
Okay.
I think I read
Maybe-
it just because I wanted to.
Maybe it's a bit harsh to say forced. Honestly, as far as stories I was forced to read, it was kind of the most entertaining.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's actually
if you
not
don't
bad.
know
Yeah.
If you don't know it, I'm not going to spoil the plot for it until a little bit later. Also, I'll see if I can keep mine as long as your guys, but I'm new at this, so, you know, give me a...
No, if it's not as long, that is perfectly okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, our story starts off with a guy named Robert Hansen, born in Iowa, which isn't the most exciting name, Robert Hansen. Doesn't really have the Dahmer
Kinda-
Bundy ring.
I don't know. I like the last name Hansen.
That's fine. It just doesn't scream Dahmer or Bundy, you know? Maybe
Oh,
they're
I
just-
thought you were going to say it just doesn't
That's true.
have the same ring as like John Hansen.
John Hansen. No, it doesn't. John. Honestly, his childhood wasn't as traumatic as it could have been for what he did. I mean, don't get me wrong, it sucked, but like, it wasn't multiple murder sucky. You have all these other murders that were like abused and traumatized in their youth, so you can like kind of see where they went wrong. But I don't know.
Okay.
For Robert, it wasn't like great. As far as I've read, his upbringing, it was unpleasant, but not too fucked up. Anyway, so Robert Hansen. He's born to an American mom, Edna, and Danish dad, Chris. Daddy was a baker and apparently a bit domineering, a rather religious guy, although I haven't really heard any horror stories in his youth. Still, it kind of sucked to be old Bobby. He was a loner, as many of our red-flagged girlies tend to be. He had a stutter, a learning disability, and pretty bad acne, which would eventually scar his face.
Okay.
Now, for his outcast ways, the girls at school snubbed him, which was unfortunate for him, because apparently he had fallen in love with all of them. Robert Hansen really liked girls. You'll see that more as we go in.
Okay.
Now, if you guys recall, Daddy wasn't really particularly coddling to his son. Robert was left-handed. He forced his son to do everything right-handed instead. And in general, if you had a problem like stuttering, for example, or suffering, basically Dad prescribed prayer and hard work, which means chores and bakery duty, because he was a baker. So far, you know, I think his childhood, it sucks, right? But does it scream serial killer to you guys?
No.
Not
No.
really.
Neither do I.
Unless he
But
was
anyway,
eating bacon with like contaminated rye.
yeah, well, that might be something. On the opposite side, though, his mom was actually apparently quite loving, so I guess he took refuge with her a lot. So, Rather than spend time with his friends, he spent time practicing hunting and archery. And for those of you who know the aforementioned most dangerous game, that's called foreshadowing. Now let's go back
Okay.
again just to kind of add all that
Okay, Jesse.
extra details. So he was born in Estherville, Iowa in 1939. I actually don't know where that is. I don't know anywhere in Iowa, but I thought I'd mention it in case anybody out there does. He's born, has a sucky childhood. He's bullied, whole shebang. He's a disappointment to his father because of all the problems, of course, and he's an outcast at school. So he starts to work at his father's bakery, and they move to Richmond, California. So, at least they have that going for them.
Okay.
Just kidding. They moved back to Iowa 7 years later to a town called Pocahontas because they like to make bad choices. And I'm really getting all the places. New Jersey, Iowa. Anyway, I guess it.
I love it.
I was going to be like, is that
Let's
like a
roast
real
all of
place?
these places.
Or are you like also pulling our leg?
So those moves, not movies, those moves occurred during his formative years and only exacerbated his loner tendencies. Now, eventually, Robert grows up, joins the Army Reserve. During this time, he got to explore the city, and it was there Robert would hire a sex worker and have his first sexual experience.
As you do.
Oh, little Robert's growing up. So it's honestly nothing. Got a sex worker. He found he liked it. Yeah.
You don't say.
Sex workers tend to be practiced in making people feel comfortable. They can be kind. They make their client feel desirable. And of course, they're usually pretty well versed in giving pleasant sexual experiences. Thank you for your service, ladies and men and them, etc.
Me.
But it goes beyond a good time with women who didn't spurn him. In the sex biz, there's a barter. Body for cash. Now, likely, Robert took this viewpoint a bit further. He felt some sort of ownership over the woman in this exchange, as he thought he bought them along with a sexy time. Remember, his childhood consisted of powerlessness. His father controlled him, his peers bullied and avoided him, but now Bobby could be in control. At least that's what some of the psychological profiles for him I read said. So, maybe keep that psychological profile in the pocket for a little bit later.
Okay.
So now, with a preference for those in the sex biz, he was able to start overcoming social anxiety. Found himself requesting things he would never ask of a lover. And he continues working for that military job for around a year, and then after a year he gets discharged. That honestly sounds like there's an interesting story, but as far as I looked, I couldn't find it. So just
It's like a dead end.
Yeah, unfortunately. Eventually, he becomes a drill instructor at a police academy, another way to feel power over others. He dates and becomes engaged to a woman named Phoebe, and that's the end of the story. What do you guys think?
No,
I'm just kidding.
there's more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesse.
No. So, for this next part, I want to ask you guys, did you guys go to prom? No, I'm kidding. I know we've already done it. No. By the end of that same year in December, he was arrested for arson. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Despite things finally going well, he has a girl, a job.
Okay.
And his dad started easing up on him and giving him some more free time. Despite all that, Robert still has these pent-up feelings of anger from his childhood. And he just, at this point, for some reason, doesn't feel like he can relate to other adults. So in spare time, he starts hanging out with teen boys. Now, I know that sounds like a red flag, and it is, but not in the way you're going to think of. So, one boy he starts to bond with, especially because that boy gets hired on the at his father's bakery. So he and Robert start hanging out. Robert talks to him, convinces them that they should burn down a school bus garage, the usual things. Mm-hmm, but it's kind of commit arson to get out his anger at school. What was that? Yeah.
Because that's what we like to talk about, burning things down.
Regular teenage thing. It's what
technically we do talk about burning things down.
We do. Robert, I love fire. I love arson.
It's pretty. Fire is pretty. If it wasn't illegal.
Especially when things like blue and purple.
As a Californian, though, I feel like I shouldn't say that because we're on fire, like, all the time. Anyway.
Oh, you mean we're not the state of, fire?
We should be called the state of fire.
We should change our
fire.
name.
I was thinking we were like the state of drought.
Oh yeah.
Because we're always in a drought.
We have been
let's stick with
like
golden
years.
state. I think that sounds prettier rather than saying decimated state. No, we're pretty.
I mean, golden could mean like the fire blazing, but it could also mean all of the dry wheat that's everywhere and the dead grass, because that's all golden.
True.
So
see, I'm thinking that we're the golden state because at this point we're golden brown because of so many fires.
That's true. So they burn it all down. By all down, I mean the school bus garage. But Robert creates some alibi, and it works for a while. He gets confident. But eventually feeling bad, that boy, I don't know if he ever found out his name, I forget. But that boy turns him in. It might have been kept in mind, but I could be wrong. Now, Robert's family and Phoebe, the fiancée, they don't believe it. They think Robert's been framed. Before he can be sentenced, Phoebe and Robert decide to tie the knot, so they don't have to, wait because he's in jail. But Phoebe says if she ever finds out that he's lying about not starting the fire, she's going to divorce his ass. So,
wait,
Robert,
no, was this the trigger?
Nope.
Okay.
There's different triggers. There's a lot of triggers to Robert. Robert's trigger happy. But so Robert gets married in the middle of 1960, and then he gets sentenced to 3 years in prison with psychological evaluation. In the end, he only had to serve 20 months, a little over half the sentence, and this leniency is going to continue to be a pattern in his life. The diagnosing psychiatrist at the time starts evaluating Robert, and Robert starts proudly admitting what he did. He's just assuming client privilege, confidentiality, that thing. So the psychiatrist is talking to him. He comes to the conclusion that Robert is obsessed with getting vengeance against those he perceived as wronging him. I mean, no shit. And then he's labeled as having an infantile personality. But that means he never quite mentally matured beyond his younger years. He was somewhat stunted, so maybe that was all those moves during those formative years. The bullying, the controlling father, the lack of communications with others, being a loner. Honestly, it's probably all of the above and then some. But it does explain why he felt he had more in common with teens, and also that he impulsively burnt down a bus garage. Anyway, confidentiality doesn't apply to this situation. His wife and family find out that he's guilty, the wife divorces him, and the family moves away in shame. Yeah, honestly, good call, Phoebe, but honestly, that's kind of rude of his family. If he murdered someone, I get it. That's just arson.
Also, didn't they get married and it's till death do us part?
Exactly.
I divorced his ass too.
Okay. I mean, yeah, if you do that. So.
You can do that.
She told him, she's like, you tell me straight up right before the wedding, did you do that fire? And he's like, no. Okay, but I'm going to divorce you if you're lying to me.
He could have come clean then.
At this point, everything good seems to have disappeared. He doesn't have his bakery job. He's lost his wife, his family. Also, he's in prison. But he plays nice, and everyone thinks he just had a stint with a mental illness, and he's back on the straight and narrow. So he gets off earlier. Then he convinces his family that he's a good boy, and he moves back to them, and everybody likes him. He learned to become endearing at this point. From there, he marries a deeply religious woman, and her name is Darla Henriksen. They moved around a bit as Robert took temporary baking jobs, and during these jobs, he starts stealing things. Apparently, he's even bragging to his coworkers about stealing things. So no doubt he gets times and talks his way out of it. He had a shitty draw, so he felt entitled. Eventually, Robert gets caught. He's stealing cash, but it doesn't matter because he already has a job lined up. So they move. He and Darla move to Anchorage, Alaska, away from that job into a new one. They have a couple kids, and finally he gets his life straightened out. Just kidding, it gets worse.
Okay.
So now something's going to trigger him.
So it didn't seem obvious to his neighbors that he got worse. He was really well liked by them. set some hunting records for the area. Friendly, a prize-winning pillar in the community, a family man, a baker. But privately, he starts going back to crime. Now, his wife knows he's up to something late at night, but she just assumed prostitutes. Hanson's apparently had some kinky derelictions that he couldn't act out with religious Darla. So she's just kind of there. He's not doing anything or hoping Christianity would fix him. But no, it was more than paying for sex. Starting with petty theft, Hanson was getting in more trouble. So not a great start to his newfound freedom. But it could be worse. And by 1971, it was. From arson and larceny, he moves to rape and kidnapping. Now, first was the abduction and the attempted rape on an 18-year-old secretary. Her name was Susie Heppard. Apparently, they shared a glance, where she politely smiled as they both waited at a stoplight.
That's not an invitation.
No,
Are you scared?
not at all.
Because he thinks is flirtation. So, you know, when someone flirts with you, how you follow them home? Yeah, that's what he
Exactly.
did.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, follows her out, asks her out, and she politely tells him, sorry, I have a boyfriend. So I'm pretty sure you guys know Robert doesn't like rejection. It was so common in his childhood, all the other women he for some reason fell in love with, they said no. Can't imagine why. But that's mean of me. I should say I'm sorry for his childhood. But anyway, so Robert doesn't like rejection.
He's responsible for his actions, so it does not matter in the end.
He also doesn't like the fact that rejection puts the other person in power. So he returns and holds her at gunpoint with the plans to abduct and rape her, saying, shut up, sweetheart. Now, luckily, despite him telling her not to scream, she screams. And the neighbor...
No way.
So he runs away. Then he's picked up, but he blames mental illness and memory loss, and they don't imprison him yet while he's awaiting trial. Not long after that, though, comes the actual rape of someone. Patricia the prostitute. We've got Phoebe the fiancé, now we've got Patricia the prostitute. Anyway, when she tried to blow off his advances, he got angry. Again, doesn't like rejection, abducts her, and rapes her. And when she promises not to, he lets her go, but she, being a smart girl, still reports him.
Good for her.
Apparently, it was her fear and his feelings of power that started getting him hooked on those feelings. That's what he says. That's when he started realizing he really likes putting fear in people, raping them, and things like that. Once again, though, he gets off easy. Due to a lack of evidence, he was given a plea deal, pleaded no contest to assault with a deadly weapon.
The hell?
With a deadly weapon, or the housewife, and the rape of the prostitute is dropped. Which kind of seems like, if anything, that should have been reversed. But he was sentenced to 5 years, but got onto a work release program and was released to a halfway house by month 6.
Dude, what?
Yeah.
This man.
So reform was not accomplished, since less than a year later, in 1972, it is believed he had begun adding murder to his crimes. He seems especially fond of prostitutes and exotic.
Oh, my God.
Remember, he decided he likes prostitutes.
Yeah.
Bodies were found.
What was that?
Bodies were found.
They will eventually. Now, he seems especially fond of the prostitutes, and from his interviews, it does give the impression, like I said before, that he feels this ownership over them when he pays for them. Which, for any of the listeners here, should know that when you're paying for sex, you're paying for sex, not the person. Unfortunately...
And also, you shouldn't be paying for that.
Yeah. But unfortunately, targeting sex workers in Alaska was a smart idea. A bad, mean thing to do, but a smart idea. Because at this point, there's this pipeline boom going on. Lots of men are making their way up to Anchorage, Alaska, because of the pipeline. Now, following them were women. Men go up, women are looking up to make some money, and the oldest career, although some are trying to make money in more traditional ways, but a lot of them end up still having to use their body for their career.
Uh-huh.
So here we have it, a town full of strangers. Lots of new men are coming every day, lots of new prostitutes are coming every day, and that makes it a little hard to notice when someone goes missing. especially when it is common for the prostitutes and exotic dancers to really just kind of leave after a while without telling anyone, never making really big roots in the air. So, especially for those in that sexy trade. Again, lots of strangers going in, going out, but I digress. Here is his MO. 1. Stalk a woman, usually a prostitute, an exotic dancer, and oftentimes these are teenagers. Number 2. Once he learned her habits, he would get her in his car and take him to his house at gunpoint. 3. He would rape her. Usually she would be bound up. And 4. This is where the plot of the most dangerous game comes in. He takes her to a secluded, releases her, and hunts her down like an animal. He uses a bush plane to go to these areas that other people couldn't necessarily get to. Remember, Alaska has a lot of wilderness in it.
Yeah.
And it was really the fear that gets him off. Control over women equals control over his wife for some reason. Another impression I got from his interviews. Can you really imagine being stranded in the Alaskan wilderness? No one knows where you are and you're being hunted by a serial killer?
After you had been raped.
After you've been raped? Well, if you want to watch a movie based off of this, watch The Frozen Ground with Nick Cage and John Cusack.
Okay, I'll check it out.
I want to watch
The Frozen Ground.
Maybe we should all watch it together at some point. Anyway, his first victim is thought to be one Celia, also known as Beth Van Zenton, who disappeared on December 22nd, 1971. But in our first fuck you to Robert, she seems to have escaped, which is good. Though, sadly, she still froze to death. No. She would be found on Christmas. That said, he never admitted to her death, but there's a lot of similarities with his the way he did things. Now, it's around this time that some bodies are being found. And the fact that they're finding .22 caliber cartridges with most of them becomes suspicious. The first body found was never identified, but they named her Eklutna Annie since she was found near Eklutna by some construction workers, which I think Eklutna Annie would be a really cool cowgirl name if it wasn't.
Eklutna Annie? That actually is really cool.
I like it.
It's really cool, actually.
Now, according to Hansen, that's the serial killer and his, because I keep calling him Robert, so maybe I should stick with that. But according to Robert Hansen, she was a prostitute, surprise, but she got spooked by Robert and pulled a knife out. So he attacked her. He claims that she was his first kill. Now, the next body found was Joanna Messina, found in a gravel pit near Seward. Robert had met her, and she made the mistake of being nice to him. He had this fantasy of them actually being in love with each other because of that. I think they might have actually done a few things together, but, sexy times. And she's not a prostitute or anything, but I'm getting the idea that maybe she was looking for some money for sexual favors because his fantasy of them being in love with each other abruptly ended when she asked for money from him and he killed her. Now, after her, they find 23-year-old Sherry Morrow in a shallow grave near the Connect River, identified by dental records. Sherry was an exotic dancer who was offered some money for a photo shoot, I assume of the sexy kind. She was stumbled upon by some off-duty law enforcement who were hunting and was determined to have been killed a year earlier from her being found. So, with her body found to be, however, also with her body, they found that she was missing a necklace she was wearing, a golden arrowhead. So just keep that in mind for a little bit later.
Golden arrowhead necklace, okay.
But remember, these bodies are being found, at least that recent one and the others are being found a little bit further after they're dead. So they're decayed. You're not necessarily getting as much useful information from the body as you would have if it was a fresh kill. But back to Robert. He starts killing, but he gets arrested for, once again, larceny. After stealing a chainsaw from my favorite chain grocery store, Fred Meyer's, which I don't think we have in California, but if you guys are ever in Oregon or etc. up there, go there. It's like Walmart becoming classy. I digress.
Okay, all right.
Describe it.
Weirdly, once again, his sentence was reduced. this time by the Alaska Supreme Court, although at least they required him to receive treatment for a bipolar disorder that he was claiming to have. Didn't fix his bad behavior, though. So he gets out and he starts criming again, and he chooses another victim. And he's been killing for a while now. But again, I'll get to those victims once the cops have linked them. So he chooses a victim, and guess what, bitches? She escapes. So at one point,
No way.
to fuck you, Robert. This girl is a 17-year-old prostitute named Cindy Paulson. The year is 1983, and he lures her by paying her $200 for a blowjob. Not a bad deal, considering today that is $630.
Not a bad deal.
Whoa.
Now, she's smart. She's smart not just because of that, but because she says, I'm going to do it in the car with you, but I'm not going home with you.
Good. Good for her.
For John, so he takes her home at gunpoint, rapes, tortures her on a bearskin rug, and chains her by the neck to a post in his basement. Eventually, he takes her to the airport with his plane. I don't know if anyone knows planes, but it's a Piper PA-18 Super Cub. He tells her that his plan is to take her to his cabin, a romantic way of saying a crappy shack in the Connect River, only accessible by boat or bush plane. But while he's loading the cockpit, she escapes, flags down a truck, and makes her way to freedom. And she alerts the authorities, identifying his airplane, describing the car he drives, and describing what he looks like, as well as describing the inside of his house and how it's full of animal trophies. The authorities don't believe her. Robert makes up a story about how I was angry at him because she was extorting him, and he refused to meet her demands. So they check the house, and everything is exactly as Cindy says, except for the lack of chains. And they actually even find guns hidden in the wall. But none were those matching the bodies. But I still honestly think it's kind of suspicious to have secret wall guns, even if they aren't the ones matching the bodies.
Definitely.
So does this man get paid good enough to buy multiple guns and a plane? Or where's this money coming from?
So honestly, that's kind of funny. It's something, I forget if I put that in my notes, but he was charged with something beyond murders. Let's see if it was there. Yeah, you'll find out where he gets the money a little bit later. It's another one of his crimes, anyway. Anyway, this is just me saying I'm against secret wall guns, and maybe that's because I'm a Californian. But anyway, to his innocence, his friend comes up with a phony alibi for him. And this is a tactic he uses for his other murders as well. Besides, the police are looking at this guy. He's this mild-mannered, meek baker. Bakers don't murder, especially one that's literally giving police investigators free donuts. So they labeled him a non-serious suspect and moved on. The higher-ups in the police department decide to close the case on him. But this doesn't sit well with everyone. One of the cops, Greg Baker, decides to continue the investigation under the noses of his superiors. Said he knows of several bodies that have been found since, and he suspects Robert. So he forwards the information to people who can do it without getting in trouble, the state troopers, and specifically it goes along to a man named Detective Glenn Floth. Meanwhile, yet another body is found, this time Paula Golding, an exotic dancer who was killed 5 months earlier. Opposite to all those crime shows where there's a jurisdiction war between everyone, Floth actually then contacts the FBI agent, John Douglas, and works with him for help on profiling. Now, he did a really good job. I was actually really impressed with his profile. I'll give you a little bit of a walk. I won't go through all the science of it, but just a little bit fun psychology.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd like that.
So to begin with, so many killings have occurred, right? The killer would have to be able to operate unnoticed by the community. If he was respectable and had some kind of community standard or standing, that's going to work to his advantage. So that's probably the case. This is something you usually find in business owners. He owns a bakery, especially ones that regularly interact with the community. Cement that. Now, being a business owner would also mean that he was rooted enough to have local knowledge and give him financial stability, somewhat, but not totally, helping him afford a plane, without anyone questioning where those funds are going because he owns the business. Furthermore, control and independence coming from owning a business fits with the killer's need to control their victims, which they feel that a serial killer really had, based off of just some of the traits of his victims. And then, so the killer would need to control their victim, and he would be able to carefully plan the abductions and murders. Again, going under his ability to control the situation.
Yeah.
Now, to be able to find where these bodies were, or to be able to put these bodies where they were in the wilderness, this man would also have to be an outdoors man, something who would like to hunt a lot, for example. So far we have an independent business owner who hunts and likes to hunt.
Yeah.
And then based off of other killers who preyed on hookers, he would probably have difficulty talking to women and have low self-esteem, probably growing up as an outcast. Okay, so now we have someone who's grown up as an outcast, likes things like shooting and archery, and is an outdoorsy guy, and would probably own a business. On top of that, based on similarities with other killers, his outcast tendencies were likely partially fueled by a speech impediment, either a lisp or a stutter. And if you remember, our serial killer here has a stutter. Finally, would likely keep souvenirs of his murders to remember them by. That one's less of a thing that's really impressive, because honestly, that sounds like most serial killers. But the fact
that's also true.
Stutter's impressive. Anyway, so Hansen has all this going on, plus he has that stealing crime rep, and that's considered as well. And hey, not only does he fit the profile, he has an airplane. So our heroes are able to use this along with Paulson's, our survivor's, claim. This would be one of the first warrants based on a behavioral profile. And they knew they needed to find the rifle with the .22 cartridges if they were going to make this work.
Was it in the wall?
What's that? Nope. None of the guns were 22 cartridges in the wall. Okay. So here's what they found with their warrants. Nothing damning at first. So they look harder. In a last-ditch attempt, they look in the insulation. Bingo. They found jewelry belonging to missing women, including a golden arrowhead necklace, guns, including a .223 caliber Ruger Mini 14 semi-automatic rifle. A semi-automatic. I certainly don't have anything political to say about that. Anyway, what they also find is an aeronautical chart. So that's like a sky map of the area with 37 X marks hidden away. And as you can guess, those X's hide a treasure. I'm sure we can guess what the treasure is. It's a pretty gruesome one.
Bodies.
Yeah. On top of that, they are conducting the search, and they run into his previous false alibi's wife, who says, no, that alibi's false. And the alibi himself says, yeah, I made that up. Because he heard the gruesome accusations, and he's like, what the hell? So, of course, Hansen denies it at first. But just like any incel, which isn't a thing at the time, but I imagine he'd be one today, like any incel, he starts blaming the women to justify his actions. Finally, he admits it, and we now know Hansen to have raped and assaulted over 30 women, and to have murdered at least 17 women ages 16 to 41. Now, here's one. Being the nice guy that he is, he did claim he eventually would, or occasionally let victims go if he was convinced they wouldn't tattle on him. And he mentions one of the main highs he gets from his hunts and the torturing of them was from their fear. He likes their fear. From evidence, however, it is believed he actually killed at least 21 women. Hansen would only be charged with 4. Sherry Morrow, Joanna Messina, Eklutna Annie, and Paula Golding. But there is a little bit of justice. The kidnap and rape of Cindy Paulson. That is also something he would be charged with. Even though they thought he was lying, or she was lying before. And on top of that, he was charged with assault, kidnapping, weapon offenses, and theft. And as a cherry on top, to answer your question about money for an airplane, insurance fraud. Apparently, he had filed the alleged theft of some of his hunting trophies and used the funds to buy a plane. Turns out he had recovered his from his backyard, but had quote-unquote forgotten to inform the insurer. Anyway,
where the money came from.
yeah. The ballistics tests link the bullets to the crime scene with his rifle, and he makes a plea bargain. And this is why only 4 murders were charged, so that he can serve his time in a federal prison outside of Alaska and escape publicity from the press and keep his family out of the mess, or at least something. He would plead guilty to 4 homicides, help provide details of other victims, and help decipher markings on his murder map. At 44, old Bob the Baker is arrested, ending his at least 12-year reign of terror. He is sentenced to 461 years in prison and life without parole. Aside from those, though, they couldn't find, or aside from many of the areas, I forget how many exactly, most of them I don't think they were able to find because of being spread out by scavengers. And it's likely, according to the psychological profile, that there's also bodies that were never marked on the map and still have yet to be found, since he's all about control and perfection. So if the murders didn't go out just as he liked, he probably would have tried to deny they existed. At 75, he died of natural causes in prison. And they lived happily ever after.
Thank you, Jesse. I'm giving you a round of applause right now, but you probably can't hear it.
Oh, thank you. I'll take it. Okay, so let's see. Let me remember I feel like I should at least give some of the names of the others who were murdered. Let me find that fast. So, in respect for those we know, the following victims are as follows: Sherry Marlowe, Paula Golding, Joanna Messina, Butna Annie, Horseshoe Harriet, another unidentified victim, Sue Luna, Malai Larson, Delane Frey, Angela Feddern, Teresa Watson, Tamara Pedersen, Andrea Fish Alteri, Roxanne Eastland, Lisa Fattrell, Celia Beth Van Zanten, Megan Emmerich, and Mary Phil. The end.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any questions, class?
No, I mean, you answered the one where the money was coming from. That's
Yeah.
what I was
Okay.
How long did he spend in prison before he passed away?
That's a good question. Probably like 30 years or something. Let's see. Let's ask the internet. Prison was for. Oh, it doesn't want me to know. So 30 years. Hey, I was right. Approximately 30 years. Nice, Jesse.
Nice. Thank you.
Nice. Okay. Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I've heard of this before or not, but it's interesting.
I mean, it's gory to say so, but I kind of wish I had more details on the hunts.
Well, yeah, but if you never spoke about them, or if the women that got away never spoke about it.
Yeah. But he's dead. So.
True.
Bob the Baker.
Good. He's somewhere a little bit warmer now.
I think we all are, though, because climate change.
I think it's always fun hearing stories that are based in like Alaska. I don't know.
Yeah, because you can get away with it.
Alaska is like really conducive to like true crime.
I agree with that.
So isolated, maybe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's isolated. There's this vast areas of harsh weather that exist. And it's far away enough from the rest of America to make us feel safe.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did I bring a downer to our podcast?
No, it was a good story.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, good story.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought it was interesting.
Thank you.
It was hard to keep track of all those dates, though. Of like who got killed.
100%. Yeah.
A lot of these documentaries I watched and the internet things like aren't in very good order.
Whenever I have to like organize my notes, whenever it comes to dates or people's names, I have them like bolded just so like I don't forget them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it kind of helps sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't.
And I don't have a citations list for that, so you'll just have to pretend I'm right.
Take your word for it.
Well, should we end with a final story. Do you have anything for us, Alexis?
Yes, I do. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Absolutely.
Okay. It doesn't say
I thought
on
you
my
fell
end.
asleep.
Anyways. No, I didn't. So my story is, or my case is about the Greenbrier ghost. And it begins with a woman named Elva Zona Heaster Shoe.
What
That's
the
a
fuck?
fun
Could you
name.
say that again?
Elva Zona Heaster Shoe. I'll type it in
That
the
name was
chat.
my name too. Get it? And
Um,
they gonna beat always shout. What was the name again?
Zona Heaster Shoe. There. I typed it
No,
in the
no,
chat.
no, 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 no.
Persona Easter shoe.
Shoe.
Fun.
Now, is she married?
She is.
Okay.
But now her name is Elva
Would she
Zona
be
Heaster
less if she
Shoe.
wasn't Jay?
No, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to figure out if the shoe last name is hers or if it's her husband's.
It's her husband's. But she was known as the Greenbrier Ghost during that time.
Okay.
So Alva was born 1876 in Greenbrier County, West Virginia. And in October of 1896, she met a blacksmith, and his name was Erasmus Stribling Trout Shoe.
I'm
Hold
sorry,
on.
where do these
Let me
people
Could you
type
use?
that.
also spell that out? Yeah, type that out and say it one more time.
Stribling. Okay, so his name is Erasmus Stribling Trout Shoe.
Sounds like an
What
insult.
the
You
fuck are
Erasmus
these names?
So what I'm
Trout Shoe.
hearing is that a tongue twister married another tongue twister.
What are we? What are we? What are we?
Wait,
So they met.
where's this located again?
This was in West Virginia, Greenbrier County.
Huh.
So they met 1896 in October. Within that same month, they married each other.
Sick.
And 3 months later, on January 23rd, 1897, Chu, the husband, he had a neighbor. He was 11 years old, and he would have the 11-year-old boy run errands for him. So he would come into the house. She would give him a note or a list of groceries that he needed that day. That little boy would leave, come back with all those groceries and put them away. And he got paid for it. But that day, when the young boy went into the home, he found Elva's dead body. Now, the local coroner was called onto the scene. His name was Dr. George W. Knapp. And before he arrived to the scene, Chu, the husband, he had already moved Elva's body. Now, from all the sources that I read, it doesn't say where in the house she was prior to the coroner coming into the scene, probably just because it wasn't documented. But we do know that Chu had moved her body into their bedroom. He even put her in a high-necked, stiff-collared dress, which is typically a job done by an undertaker.
Wait, I think I've heard this, but keep going. Wait, keep going,
yeah, Dr. Knapp, he arrived onto the scene, and he saw that Shu was holding Elva's head in his hands, and he was sobbing, as if he was mourning, grieving, seeing his wife's dead body. And Dr. Knapp, he decided to do a brief examination of the body. He noticed there was some bruising around her neck, but he didn't perform a thorough autopsy because of Shu's mental state at that time. Instead, he listed her cause of death to be everlasting faint, which is basically like heart failure. And then
that's an interesting way to put it.
That did, yeah, it is. But
what year was this?
Everlasting faint. That was the initial cause of death. It doesn't say when he changed it, but he did later change it to childbirth complications.
Okay.
For her bruise.
Was she pregnant?
Did she give birth through her mouth?
Nothing says about her being pregnant. Nothing says about how far along she was, who was the father, nothing. It literally just says cause of death, childbirth complications. So I had no idea she was pregnant before reading that when I initially researched it. And I tried my best to find things, but really, before her death, she's literally just a complete mystery. So there's no record of her even being pregnant from what I can see on the internet. But it did confuse me, it confused all of us here that it was childbirth. It doesn't say anything about it.
Yeah.
But they then started to prepare her body for her burial. Shu, he was actually involved in it. He was always handling her head when he was involved too, was one thing that they had noticed. And when they put her body into the casket, Shu had got a sheet and he folded it and he put it on one side of Elva's head. And then he got a piece of her favorite clothing and put it on the other side to help her rest easier.
Okay.
And then
What?
he tied a scarf around her neck and said, quote, "It had been Sona's favorite," end quote. So as I mentioned, they put her body into the casket. It was an open casket, and they brought it to her mother. Her mother was Mary Jane Heister, and she lived by the Big Sewell Mountain. And the next day, on January 24th, 1897, they buried Elva's body in a local cemetery on a hill. It's now known as the Soul Chapel Methodist Cemetery. There we go. So she was buried January 24th, 1897. Just a month afterwards, Mary Jane said that she had been visited by Elva's spirit. He said that for 4 consecutive nights, Elva would come to her and tell her about the abuse that she had experienced in her marriage with Shu, even claiming that he had murdered her.
Damn.
After she started seeing her daughter in spirit, she started telling her neighbors about how abusive Shu was and how he had murdered her daughter in a fit of rage, and broke her neck. Now, Mary Jane, she took this information that she gathered from this spirit, and she went to the local Lewisburg prosecutor. His name was John Alfred Preston. And she literally went into his office and talked to him for hours and just tried to convince him to reopen Elva's case. Whether or not Preston fully believed Mary Jane, it still was enough reason for him to have some of his deputies interview the people of interest in that case during that time, as well as the coroner, Dr. Knapp.
Yeah.
Knapp, when he was interviewed, he immediately confessed to not doing a thorough autopsy or a complete examination of the body. And he also even admitted that he might have made a mistake with his final diagnosis of her cause of death.
Oh, wow, really?
So, yeah. So then they did an investigation. They did an investigation on Shu's background as well. And when they did a background check on him, they found out that he was married twice before Elva. And he was also in the West Virginia Penitentiary. Now, it doesn't say how long he was in there for nor what he was in there for. It doesn't say what crime he committed. It just says he was in there for about a term, which is like 4 months. And the 2 wives that he had prior to Elva had both died. One of them broke her neck by falling from a haystack. And the other had died. Yeah, the other died by helping Shu repair their chimney. So she was on top of the chimney, and his wife at the time was at the bottom placing rocks into a basket that was attached to a rope. And so Shu would basically pull up that rope and he would get the rocks and he'd place them down, blah, blah, blah. But as Shu was drawing the basket back up, one of the rocks fell out of the basket and landed on his wife's head. And all of this led to the exhumation and autopsy of Elva's body. Erasmus found out that they were going to dig up his wife's dead body to do an autopsy on it. And he complained to the Greenbrier Independent, which was like a local paper at the time. But he knew that whether he liked it or not, he still had to attend. He needed to be there to see what they would find.
Yeah.
He had a feeling he would be arrested after the autopsy. And he had a rebuttal. He said, quote, "But they will not be able to prove I did it," end quote.
Oh, shit.
Which implies that, of course, he knew that his wife, he at least knew his wife was murdered.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they performed the autopsy on February 22nd, 1897. They performed it in a local schoolhouse, which is crazy. And it lasted for about 3 hours, and they found that Elva's neck had been broken. The autopsy report was published on March 9th, 1897. I literally cannot find it for the life of me. But it stated that, quote, the discovery was made that the neck was broken and the windpipe matched. On the throat were marks of fingers indicating that she had been choked. The neck was dislocated between the first and second vertebrae. The ligaments were torn and ruptured. The windpipe had been crushed at a point in front of the neck. End quote. And after this information was revealed, they arrested Erasmus Shu and charged him for the murder of his wife, Elva. The trial started June 22nd, 1897. And Elva's mother, Mary Jane, was actually the star witness. Now, most of her testimonies were based on dreams and ghostly sightings. Although the prosecutor did try to, drill it into her head that she needed actual factual evidence, but she still was just going on with the ghost sightings that she had. And Shu's lawyer, he decided to take this as an opportunity to question Mary Jane, kind of trying to hope to prove her to be an unreliable source to the jury. But despite all efforts, she pulled through. She was pretty calm during it, and so calm that she convinced the jury that she was telling the truth. So, Erasmus Shu was found guilty for the murder of his wife and sentenced to life in prison on July 11th, 1897. While Shu was in prison, there was actually a lynch mob organized to take him out and hang him.
No way.
Yeah, a sheriff deputy intervened. Yeah. 4 of the leaders of the organization were charged for attempted murder, so that stopped before any damage was done. But Erasmus did die in West Virginia Penitentiary, Moundsville, on March 13th, 1900. It was actually due to an unknown epidemic at the time. He was buried in an unmarked grave in the local cemetery. And this case made American judicial history. It is the only case known where a ghost literally helped solve a murder. And it would have just been considered as accidental. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's really cool, actually.
Mm-hmm. That is actually all I. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I saw the literally ghost helped with murder, and I was like, oh, all right, cool.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right. This is the only case where like a ghost has helped solve their own murder.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I thought it was pretty cool though.
It is. I have heard of this. Thank you.
I never heard of it before, so that's cool to hear about.
I've heard of the name, but I don't recognize the story, so yeah. Elva's own Hester shoe and a
I would have been sure. I would have remembered those names.
Yeah.
Elva Zona, Hester shoe, and then Erasmus Stribling trout shoe.
Again, that just sounds like an insult. Scribbling trout shoe.
It does.
So therefore, I will put a heart next to
apparently means Edward.
You know, Erasmus, Edward. What?
No way.
Does it come from a specific like nationality or something?
Greek, I believe. In Greek, it means beloved.
What about stribbling?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, no, that's just an insult.
And trout just means trout.
Scribbling trout shoe.
And they lived happily ever after.
They did.
Amazing.
And
well, thank you, Alexis.
Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The case of what was the ghost called? The green what?
The Greenbrier ghost.
Greenbrier ghost. Why is she green?
Why aren't you?
That's just the county that it was in.
Oh,
where's the county?
Greenbrier.
Oh, Greenbrier. Okay, for some reason, because I thought how like there's white ladies.
No, it's not two separate words. Yeah.
I thought it was like like she showed up as a green lady. Because there's green ladies, brown ladies, white ladies, red ladies, blue ladies.
All the colors of the lady rainbow.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
lady rainbow. I guess so. All right.
Well, I feel fully educated today on true crime and occult.
Perfect. That's the goal.
We've got 2 spookies. We've got 2 nonfictions. I feel like we covered our bases today.
Yeah.
I guess
it ended up being
because it was in court. You could only say 3 nonfictions, but
it did end up being true crime.
Yeah, so 3 true crimes, 2 spirits, but only 4 stories. Or not spirits.
Okay.
I can't speak. You know what I'm saying.
Nice. Yeah.
Do you feel like a changed man now, Jesse, after being on our podcast?
I feel like 2 changed men. That's how changed I am.
Oh my god. I feel like you changed into one person?
Changed.
Oh. What happened to the other half of the third man?
We don't talk about that.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here. Thank you, listeners, for taking a listen.
Hope you enjoyed listening to Jesse as well.
This is our longest episode yet.
So
thanks for sticking around if you're still here.
Yeah. But catch you later on Chambers of the Occult.
Chambers of the Occult.
.com.
Yeah. And we'll see you next episode.
Yeah. Check us out on all of our socials and everything. And make sure to take care of yourself. Sit up straight. Drink some water.
If you want to quicker and not write us an email, you can go to the description and it says send them a text or send us a text. And you can do that too. We do not get your phone
anything juicy, let me know.
We just get like their last 3-4 digits. 4 digits.
But do send us your social security number.
Yeah,
for legal purposes, that is a joke.
We're going to thank Jesse if we get that.
Well, sleep well.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye-bye. See y'all.
Bye. I, being a, good guest, totally didn't forget to say thank you for having me. So, I'm just going to go ahead and say thank you guys for having me on your podcast. I expect to be here soon. I mean, it'd be cool if I was here soon. Okay. Bye. Mwah.